Episode 21, Snatching a Seat. Since he's really committed to this punishment, we won't make things difficult for him, but he must remember that we won't go easy on him next time, and he'll have to do more than just bark. Since Harry had spoken, it would be boring for the others to continue making noise. They might as well just leave it alone. The bet was just between the two anyway. Harry is still too kind. The few classmates who had attended the party looked at Harry's nonchalant manner and felt uncertain in their hearts that he was hiding something. They knew he could make Benedict look like a fool, and now Bulldog and Gary were humiliated. What do you think Harry's true identity is? Is he really an heir from a super rich family? Bulldog was definitely not punished by the school. He must have provoked Harry. Then he is too scary. Benedict had to admit defeat in front of him. Now, Bulldog was also sent to the police station. Harry's identity is really mysterious and scary. The few of them were quietly discussing Harry, and they even raised their heads to look at him from time to time, trying to see if they can catch a glimpse of him really was instead of the trash prince. In the end, they reached a consensus. They could not afford to offend Harry, and it would be best for them to stay away from him in the future. Not only would they not lose face like Gary, they would also suffer the same fate as Bulldog. Bulldog was taken away. The school had not had time to arrange a substitute teacher for Harry's class, so the whole class was free for the whole morning. The bell for the end of the class rang at noon. Harry's dormitory trio went to the canteen to eat together. The reason they were missing one person was because Jacob had taken his girlfriend out to eat. Only Harry, Barry, and Felton were left alone in the canteen for lunch. When they were lining up for lunch, Felton said with a smile, "Harry, you kicked Bulldog out of school today. You helped me vent my anger. I'll treat you to lunch this afternoon." Harry knew Felton's family was not well off. Besides, he had so much money that he could not even spend it all. Harry could not let Felton treat him in good conscience. Harry shook his head and said, "You two have taken care of me so many times before. I will treat you today." Barry said, "No, we know that you have worked so hard to earn money. How can we let you treat us?" "That's right. You should do something else with that little money of yours." Harry smiled and said, "I had less money because I was going out with Bella. Now that we're broken up, I have plenty of cash. Please allow me to treat the both of you. It is the least I can do to say thanks." Seeing Harry's insistence, the two of them could only agree. Harry queued up at the window. "Give me 3 drumsticks, a large serving of braised pork ribs, a grilled fish, and a serving of sour and spicy fish soup." They looked at Harry's fingers pointing and pointing continuously. They were all dishes that they were usually reluctant to eat and could not afford to eat. Barry and Felton were shocked. "Harry, why did you order so much?" Harry smiled and said, "These dishes are nothing. In the future, I will treat you to the best food in the Star Moon Hotel in Maryland." A French feast? Barry and Felton were completely shocked. Harry was too rich. Star Moon Hotel was a place where poor students like them could not afford to eat. They were afraid that they would be chased out by security before they could even enter the Star Moon Hotel. Even walking near that part of town made their skin crawl like they were being watched and judged. Not that they actually were just walking around, it was only a small impression that they felt. Places like that were prone to turn away people who didn't quite fit the usual form. With prices for what they were in such establishments, to avoid issues, they only sat people who could afford the whole bill. Harry actually said that he would take the two of them to a big meal. Did he really not know how much that would cost him? Bill as high as a few thousand were not uncommon at those kinds of places. They only thought this in their hearts. They didn't say it out loud. They just nodded in agreement. They thought that Harry just said it casually, and they just took it that it was nothing. Harry was probably just being nice and dreaming that one day he could treat his friends to such an occasion. Harry ordered a lot of expensive dishes, and the 3 of them went to find a place to sit while chatting happily. Who knew that it would be so strange today? The entire canteen was filled to the brim. First, Harry seemed to be in huge trouble. Then out of nowhere, their teacher got fired and Harry got out scot-free. There were 1 or 2 empty seats here and there, but the 3 of them ordered a large pile of dishes. They couldn't possibly split up. They required ample room for the amount of food Harry was bringing over. They looked around. Harry's eyes lit up. He saw Jen. At this time, she was sitting in a corner of the canteen alone. Beside her was a table and chairs for 4 people. It was the perfect opportunity for Harry and his friends to go over and sit down. Knowing Jen somewhat better, Harry felt fine going over to her table and sitting down. "You guys follow me." Harry greeted her and walked over. Jen's roommate Colleen had a date with Jacob. Sasha and Helena were called out by some guy they met online for a date, and Jen was unwilling to go. She just wanted to come to the canteen and eat alone. It was just that she had overlooked the commotion caused by her appearance in the canteen. Today she tried to tune out all the noise. She only wanted to eat and then head back to her dorm. Unfortunately, even something as simple as that would always cause an uproar with someone. It was a blessing and a curse to be regarded as pretty by your peers. "Isn't that Jen? She's the #1 hottie in the arts department. She's too beautiful." "What are you doing? If you have the ability, go sit with Jen." "No, I'm not prepared today. I cannot leave a bad impression. Besides, she's way out of my league." Just like that, no one dared to sit at Jen's table. A small plight for the truly beautiful. A lot of people already made assumptions about you and avoided you. Jen knew how she looked to people. She just wished they would at least approach her rather than gawk from afar. It looked like these boys clearly wanted to go over but did not have the guts. The surrounding girls all looked at them with disdain. Guys like them are way below Jen. That is just how things work. Ugly people and pretty people just don't mix. Unless the ugly ones have lots of money. These boys definitely do not have a lot of money. These guys are all losers. They don't have the guts at all. They deserve to be single. "That's right, Jen isn't much prettier than me. Why aren't they looking at me?" a girl with a big face said. It was all hype. Everyone said that she was a fairy in fancy clothing, a goddess in ancient clothing. "If I wore fancy clothing, I would definitely be much more beautiful than Jen," another girl whose ego was about as big as she was. "These guys are blind. Jen was pretty, but not as pretty as me. They all want to sit with her. I still have empty seats here. Why don't you want to come over here and sit?" The jealous girls expressed their dissatisfaction with these boys. At this moment, Harry, who had already walked over, raised his plate and said loudly, "Make way, I want to go over. Thank you." As he said that, he squeezed through the crowd and sat down beside Jen unceremoniously. Who is this person? Is he really bold? I was a step too late. I let this person beat me to it. Someone recognized Harry. Isn't that the trash prince who collects trash every day? What? Why would a person who collects trash sit beside Jen of all people? They weren't related, surely. Episode 22. Invitation. Harry had been picking up rubbish from the school for 3 years. Everyone knew about this. Although many students had never seen him in person, everyone knew about the Maryland University's trash prince. A poor scavenger actually sat together with Jen? My heart hurts. The group of boys beat their chests and stamped their feet. If they had attacked earlier, Trash Prince would not have had the chance. Jen did not care about the boys secretly looking at her. She had long gotten used to it. She continued to eat with an indifferent expression. She was not nervous at all. A plate of food was placed in front of her and a boy sat beside her in a carefree manner. Because the Maryland University cafeteria wanted to accommodate more students, the seats were very close and they were fixed. Harry sat next to Jen, as if he was sticking close to her. Usually, only couples would sit together like this in the cafeteria. Jen was angry in her heart. Who was this guy? He actually dared to sit next to her? She looked up and was dumbfounded. Harry? Harry laughed mischievously. There are too many people. I can't find an empty seat. You have no objections to me sitting here, right? As he spoke, he did not wait for Jen to reply and called his 2 roommates to sit down. Barry and Felton saw that Jen's legs had already softened from nervousness. They saw Harry sit down next to Jen openly. The shock in their hearts was indescribable. Both of them gave Harry a thumbs up at the same time and expressed their respect to him. Their surrounding boys were waiting to see a joke. Doesn't the scavenger know who he is? He still dares to sit beside her? Wait for her to slap him. Isn't he too arrogant? I bet that Jen will chase him away in less than 3 seconds. I bet 1 second, otherwise I'll go eat shit. But what surprised everyone was that Jen actually did not say anything. She nodded in agreement. The surrounding people who were waiting to see Harry make a fool of himself were all dumbfounded. Why? Why should I do that? Why should she allow him to sit down? Who just said they want to eat shit? Do I have something hot to eat here? Get lost. Harry ignored the noise around him and called Jen. I ordered a lot of dishes. Since you want to sit together, let's eat together. Don't be polite with me. Being pressed close to Harry's body and feeling the hot breath on his body, Jen unexpectedly became nervous for no reason. Her small heart kept beating. A layer of pink appeared on her beautiful face, and it went all the way to her ears. All right, Jen nodded quietly and agreed to Harry's invitation. Her shy expression made Barry and Felton, who were sitting opposite the table, stare at her. What was going on? Did she like him? The two of them looked at each other and saw grievance and indignation in each other's eyes. Why was the gap between them so huge? The two of them only thought that Harry was the same as them, except that he was a little bit prettier than them. However, they did not know that Harry was the son of a big family. Even if he picked up trash from a big family for 6 years, his gestures would not be able to erase the indescribable temperament of a rich family. Jen was infected by Harry's temperament. Her heart immediately rippled, and she could not say any words of rejection. They ate the delicious food and looked at the beauty. Harry and the other two felt that the dishes today were delicious. Harry, you helped me that day, but I haven't treated you to a meal yet, Jen said. Harry waved his hand. It's all right. That's what a man should do. That won't do. I will definitely repay your kindness. Let's do it this weekend, but I have to go to the fashion design competition on the weekend first. I'll treat you to dinner after the competition is over. Harry asked, The fashion design competition? Jen nodded. It is the annual international competition. The venue of this competition is in the Star Moon Hotel of Maryland. Are you interested? We can go together. When the time comes, you can also cheer for me. Harry smiled and said, Sure, I wish you good luck in advance to win the competition. It would be best if you win the first prize. Jen said happily, It's not that easy. While the two of them were joking, an annoying voice came from behind. Jen, I asked you out for lunch at noon, and you told me that there was no time, but now you're sitting with him? Matthew suddenly appeared and said with anger burning in his eyes. Jen said indifferently, Sorry, I'm not familiar with you. Matthew had experienced it before, but he still did not know how to be polite to Harry. He did not think he could not afford to offend Harry. No matter how powerful he was still a stranger. In the city, Matthew was a man of his word. He had never been afraid of anyone. No matter how powerful Harry was, he was not someone to be trifled with. Besides, they didn't know who was stronger. Matthew thought in his heart, but he did not put Harry in his eyes. I'm sincere to you. Don't reject my kindness. Matthew looked at Jen, his eyes hiding a strong desire to possess her. Harry saw that Jen did not speak. He took out a piece of paper and wiped his mouth as he stood up. Matthew, looks like the lesson I taught you last time was not deep enough. When Matthew heard this, he was furious. You don't know what's good for you. Last time, it was I who didn't argue with you. You repeatedly ruined my good things. You are courting death. Harry pretended to sigh and shook his head. Let me tell you, since Jen is not here, then get lost. Everyone was shocked by Harry's sudden domineering attitude. Is this still the Harry we know? This man in front of us is Matthew. His family's power is tyrannical in Maryland, and he is even more domineering in school. Who would dare to provoke him? Was Harry tired of living? Barry reached out his hand and pulled Harry's sleeve. He said anxiously, Why did you provoke Matthew again? We were in the canteen this time. You embarrassed him in front of so many classmates. You're in trouble. Episode 23. Seeking Death. No matter what, Matthew was a respectable heir in Maryland University. He was infuriated by Harry's continuous rebuttal. Why are you being so arrogant for? Do you want to die? Matthew threw the plate on the table onto the ground. He looked very unhappy and wanted to hit Harry. In Matthew's eyes, Harry was a punk who came out of nowhere. He had seen this kind of person many times. They thought they had some money, but they didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Matthew didn't take Harry seriously at all. This kind of trash, as long as he obediently let him deal with it, it would be fine. If he dared to resist, he would be courting death. Harry narrowed his eyes, and there was a dangerous aura hidden in his eyes. Matthew, do you want to make a move? If you dare to touch me, I promise you that you will die a miserable death. Matthew's provocation had infuriated Harry. Harry had been exiled to Maryland by his family to pick up trash to survive. Perhaps at that time, he wouldn't dare to offend Matthew. But now, Harry had returned to his family and inherited part of the family's assets. How could he be afraid of a mere pipsqueak like Matthew? Not everyone could afford to offend the direct heir of the Parker family. Matthew absolutely couldn't bear such consequences. Do you think I will die a miserable death? Just you? What a joke. You, a loser, really think that you're amazing? I'm going to beat you to death today. Matthew raised his hand and was about to hit him. Barry quickly stepped in front of him and stopped him. He smiled flatteringly and said to Matthew, "Matthew, this kid took the wrong medicine today. He is not clear-headed. What he said was all nonsense. Don't mind him if you're magnanimous. I will apologize to you on his behalf." "Get lost. Who the hell do you think you are? If you stop me again, I'll beat you up as well." Matthew did not even look at Barry and pushed him to the ground. "Matthew, stop!" At this moment, a clear and melodious voice sounded. A girl angrily walked in from outside the crowd. Harry took a look and saw that it was actually the president of Students' Union of Maryland University, Chelsea. Chelsea's face was fair, and her facial features were gentle and beautiful, with a bit of heroic spirit. Her long ponytail was tied behind her head, and her figure was even more slender and well-proportioned. She wore a young lady's shirt and jeans, which made people think that she was very beautiful at first glance. She was the president of Students' Union of Maryland University, and she was also one of the top 10 school beauties. She handled matters fairly in school and had great prestige. "Matthew, what are you doing here? This is the school canteen, not your own home. If you dare to mess around, I will definitely report this to the school and punish you." Chelsea appeared at this moment and only criticized Matthew. It was obvious that she was helping Harry. This made Harry a little surprised. He did not have any interaction with Chelsea. Even Harry did not think that Chelsea knew him, but now she stood up for him. "Chelsea, you're obviously helping Harry. This person is just a garbage collector in school. Why are you helping him?" Matthew said unhappily. He was not afraid that Chelsea would inform the school to punish him, but he saw that Chelsea was beautiful and did not want to make things difficult for a beauty. Chelsea said seriously, "It is precisely because Harry's family circumstances are not good that as a school president of Student Union, I should help him and not let him be bullied by you." "Then you are mistaken. He has become a jerk now. He is very arrogant. I will teach him a lesson today." After saying that, Matthew's fist, which had been waiting for a long time, struck towards Harry. Be careful!" Jen and Chelsea exclaimed in unison. The two beauties looked at Harry worriedly. They saw that he was about to be beaten by Matthew, but they did not have the time to stop him. In that split second, under the gazes of the surrounding students in the canteen, Harry tilted his head and easily dodged Matthew's fist. Then, he reached out and grabbed a plate of dishes filled with soup on the table and poured it on Matthew's head. Matthew cried out in shock. His head was full of soup and he looked very embarrassed. The scene stunned everyone. "It's over! You really dare to make a move!" He actually used vegetable soup to splash Matthew. He really doesn't want to live anymore. Matthew's family power is one of the best in Maryland. In the eyes of everyone, Harry was a poor kid while Matthew was a high and mighty young master from a rich family. The difference in status between the two of them was like heaven and earth. Logically speaking, Harry should have been bullied by Matthew and not be able to fight back. But unexpectedly, not only did Harry not tolerate Matthew's humiliation, he even dared to fight back, causing Matthew to be so embarrassed. Even Matthew had a look of disbelief on his face. Harry, this kind of trash, actually dared to pour vegetables and soup on him? Harry said coldly, "Matthew, aren't you very capable? I will stand here today and see what you can do to me." Matthew's entire body was covered with sticky vegetable soup. His face was distorted from the discomfort. He has had mysophobia since he was young. As long as a little dirty thing touched his body, he would feel uncomfortable. Not to mention that his entire body was filled with the leftover vegetable soup that other people ate. This feeling was even more uncomfortable than letting him die. "All of you, go and kill this brat! Kill him!" He didn't come alone. Behind him was a group of lackeys. "Kill him! Don't let him walk out alive today!" Matthew kept wiping the vegetable soup on his face as he jumped and shouted hysterically. When the group of followers behind him saw that their friend was embarrassed by someone, they were angry and shocked. They surrounded Harry. Harry did not want to show weakness. He grabbed a porcelain plate on the table and knocked it hard on the table. The plate broke into several pieces. Broken pieces flew in all directions. Harry's arm was cut open by one of the pieces and blood kept flowing out. However, Harry didn't care at all. He grabbed a sharp piece and pointed it at Matthew's followers. His blood was still dripping from the piece. "Come on, I will kill whoever dares to attack me. Those who aren't afraid of death, come at me." The lackeys were all stunned, and their faces revealed expressions of hesitation and fear. They were obviously frightened by Harry's ferociousness. These few followers of Matthew were usually just using their power to bully others. They would bully those who were weak, but when they met someone as ruthless as Harry who didn't follow the rules, they would be terrified. In the end, they were just students. They weren't the type of people who were brave and fierce in society. "Matthew, let's go and clean up the vegetable soup on your body first." "Yeah, he's in school anyway. He can't run away. We'll deal with him later." Matthew's heart was filled with hatred. When had he, who could call the wind and summon the rain in Maryland University, been so miserable? However, he looked at Harry, who was staring at him fiercely with killing intent. There was also the sharp fragment that was tightly gripped in his hand, especially the blood that was dripping from it. Harry didn't even blink his eyes. Matthew's heart started to tremble. The few followers didn't dare to approach Harry anymore, and they all retreated to stand beside Matthew. They thought that Harry was just a scavenger, and Harry was just a ruthless life. It wasn't worth fighting him to death. "Harry, how dare you hurt me today? You're dead for sure. Let me tell you, today's matter isn't over. Just you wait." Matthew fiercely shouted and threw down this ruthless sentence. He brought a few of his followers and quickly walked out of the canteen. "Okay, I'll wait for you," Harry sneered at Matthew. Episode 24. Chelsea. At this moment, all the students in the canteen looked at Harry with complicated expressions. Some were pitying him, some admired him, and some were teasing him. In the exchange just now, Harry had directly destroyed Matthew's arrogance and had even caused Matthew to lose all face in front of everyone. This made those who had been bullied by Matthew feel very relieved. After all, Matthew had relied on his family's power to do evil in school. Many people, even if they were not bullied by Matthew, could not bear it. They were only afraid of Matthew's family's power. They were angry, but did not dare to say anything. However, everyone knew that Harry was in big trouble now. Matthew was the kind of person who would fall out with him because of a small matter. Harry was going against Matthew like this. What awaited him was definitely Matthew's crazy revenge. Barry and Felton, who had been scared silly just now, had just regained their senses. Felton's lips trembled. He wanted to say something, but his body turned soft and he could not breathe. Barry, on the other hand, was a little more daring. He quickly stood up and said, "Harry, run. Go and hide for a while. When Matthew comes back to take revenge, it will be too late." Felton said with a trembling voice, "Yes, Harry. Although what you did just now made everyone feel good, we still have to think about the consequences. We can't afford to offend Matthew." Harry sneered. "There's nothing we can't afford to offend. We are all human beings. There's nothing different about us." Harry did not pick up the junk that he had picked up for 6 years just to live a life in fear. He had been used to seeing the dark side of the society in these last 6 years. This allowed Harry to come up with a reason to stop unfair treatment in time. No matter who his opponent was, as long as he had the courage of a man, there was no opponent he could not beat. Furthermore, Harry did not have anything at the moment. He had inherited the family's assets, whether it was using his own courage to fight or using the family's power to fight. Harry could crush Matthew. Barry and Felton looked at each other. Why didn't this Harry know fear? Barry and Felton had already said what they needed to say. Harry was determined not to go out and hide. No one else could say anything. Jen stuttered and said to Harry, "Harry, this happened because of me." Harry smiled and said, "It's fine. You don't have to worry. I can stop someone like Matthew in minutes. Your wound is bleeding." Jen was touched when she saw that Harry's arm was still bleeding. She exclaimed and quickly took out a tissue to help him wipe it. But the wound was very long and deep. There was no way to stop the bleeding in a short period of time. "Harry, let me take you to the infirmary. You seem to be injured quite badly." Chelsea was concerned. "Yes, hurry up and stop the bleeding. This is a lot of bleeding," Barry said. Jen saw that wiping the wound with the tissue made the blood flow faster. She gritted her teeth and used her hands to tear the corner of her skirt. Jen pulled off a corner of her clothes and quickly tied Harry's arm. Jen said worriedly, "Harry, quickly go to the infirmary." Harry nodded and felt helpless in his heart. Looking at this wound, it seemed that it would need to be stitched up. If not, there might be a scar in the future. "Matthew! Harry must take the revenge for this." Chelsea and Jen helped Harry to walk out of the canteen, one on the left and the other on the right. Barry and Felton followed behind worriedly. Seeing Harry being carefully supported by the girls, the boys in the canteen had complicated looks in their eyes. Harry smiled bitterly. "What is this? I only injured my arm, not my leg." However, the beauty beside Harry smelled Chelsea and Jen's different body fragrance, as well as the weak touch of electricity that came from their body contact. Harry still enjoyed it in his heart. In the infirmary, the school doctor carefully checked Harry's injuries and said, "There is no need for stitches. Spray some homeostatic agent first and then apply some anti-inflammatory medication to bandage it. You have to pay attention to the wound. After bandaging it here, don't let it touch water for the next few days." Hearing that there was no need for sewing, Jen lightly patted her chest and heaved a sigh of relief. Harry had offended Matthew because he stood up for Jen. If there were ugly scars on the wound, Jen would feel really sad. Seeing the school doctor treating Harry's wound by the side, Chelsea sat by the side and said, "Harry, I will not stand idly by when Matthew threatens you. If Matthew comes back to take revenge on you, you can look for me. I could still say a few words in school." "Thank you," Harry said. Although Harry was not afraid of Matthew's revenge, Chelsea had good intentions, so he did not want to reject her directly. With his arms wrapped in bandages and hanging from his neck, Harry walked out of the infirmary. Jen and Chelsea told him to take good care of his injuries, so they went back to their respective dorms. Harry was about to return to the dorms to rest when his phone suddenly rang. Harry looked at the caller ID. It was Nate. Harry asked Barry and Felton to wait by the side and found a corner to answer the phone. "Hello, Uncle Nate." "Mr. Marquez, I heard you were injured." Nate sounded very impatient on the phone. "Yes, it's a small injury. It's not a big deal." "Are these guards blind? How can they watch you get hurt?" Nate said angrily. "You can't blame them. I have always been safe in school. Besides, they're secretly protecting me. It is too obvious in the school. They are all guarding the outer perimeter. No matter what, this is also their dereliction of duty. Sir, don't go out of the time being. I'll get a better group of guards to go over as soon as possible." "Up to you." Harry helplessly hung up the phone. Harry thought to himself, Uncle Nate must be very angry this time. These guards must have been punished for no reason. It was unfair. After making the call, Harry went back to find Barry and Felton. He found that only Felton was standing by the roadside, but Barry was not there. "Where's Barry?" Harry asked. "Harry, something bad has happened. When I went to the toilet with Barry just now, I heard a few people outside saying that Matthew wanted to go and catch Chelsea. Barry was worried, so he quietly followed them," Felton said in fear. Harry originally thought that Matthew would take revenge on Harry, but he did not expect that Matthew would take revenge on Chelsea first. No one would have thought that Matthew's revenge would come so quickly. Chelsea only said a few words for Harry, but this, Matthew actually bore a grudge against her. This was simply inhuman. Harry was also anxious in his heart. He quickly brought Felton to find Chelsea. When they reached the girls' dormitory downstairs, Harry did not have Chelsea's phone number. He could only pull a girl who was about to go upstairs and ask her to call Chelsea down. Who knew that after this girl went downstairs, she would tell Harry? Chelsea was not in the dormitory at the moment. Chelsea's roommate said that Chelsea had just received a call and hurriedly ran out of the dormitory. Chelsea got in a car and left. Harry's heart skipped a beat, and a bad premonition hit him. It was very likely that Chelsea had been caught by Matthew. Harry gritted his teeth and thought to himself, "Matthew, if you dare hurt Chelsea, I will let you die a horrible death." Episode 25. Triangulation. Felton said anxiously, "Did Chelsea really get kidnapped? Where's Barry? Where did he go?" Harry said, "I'll call Barry." He took out his phone and dialed Barry's number. The phone kept ringing, but no one answered. Harry frowned and called Stephen. This time, his phone indicated that Barry had turned off his phone. No! No one picked up the phone first, and then it was turned off. Harry had no choice but to plan the worst-case scenario. Not only Chelsea was caught, even Barry was also taken away. "Harry, is Barry—" Felton had always been timid. When something like this suddenly happened, he immediately started to tremble in fear. He thought that Matthew was too ruthless. He had made Chelsea and Barry disappear. Felton did not dare imagine what kind of harm they would suffer. "Harry, what should we do?" Harry's expression was terrifyingly gloomy. "Let's go back to the dormitory." "Return to the dormitory? Barry and Chelsea are—" Felton did not understand. Harry did not want to think about how to save the two of them, but now he wanted to go back to the dormitory. "Don't talk nonsense, let's go." When they reached the dormitory, Harry went straight to the dormitory next door. After opening the door, even though Harry was mentally prepared, he was still almost knocked over by the smell. This dormitory was filled with a foul smell. The floor was filled with cigarette butts, bottles, and instant noodle boxes. The air was filled with a disgusting smell. A boy with messy hair was sitting inside. He saw the person who opened the door and greeted him. "Harry, why are you here?" After he said that, he ignored Harry and continued typing on the keyboard in front of the computer. "Stephen, I want you to do a job," Harry said. The man in front of Harry called himself a computer genius. It was said that there was nothing he couldn't do on the internet. "You?" Stephen turned his head and looked at Harry. He said disdainfully, "Didn't you see that I was busy? How could I have the time to work for you?" "I'll give you $10,000 to help me locate the exact location of a phone." As Harry spoke, he took out a whole stack of money from his pocket and threw it into Stephen's hands. Stephen was shocked. For a university student, $10,000 was not a small amount. Stephen did not expect the scavenger next door, Harry, would casually throw $10,000 into his hands. Was he still the Harry he knew? "Where did you get so much money from? Did you pick up a treasure?" Stephen asked in disbelief. "You don't need to care about this. Are you going to do it or not? Hurry up," Harry said impatiently. "It's against the law to trace the location of the phone without permission," Stephen said hesitantly. With a dull sound, another stack of money was thrown into his hands. $20,000, Harry said faintly. "Harry, what do you do? How can you be so rich? Did you do something illegal?" Stephen held the $20,000 in his hand, his eyes wide open. He did not believe that a scavenger could take out $20,000 in cash. Harry must have done something illegal in private. "What are you dawdling for? Add another $10,000, $30,000. Are you going to do it?" Harry was annoyed. "I will do it." Stephen immediately nodded. $30,000 was enough for him to buy the latest high-end computer. Not to mention locating the location of a phone, he would even do it to hack into the defense server of the United States of America. Felton looked at everything that happened in front of him and was very shocked. Was this still the Harry he knew? He casually took out $30,000 without even blinking his eyes. He wasn't afraid of offending Matthew. Could it be that the rumors of his classmate were true? Harry was a billionaire. "This is Barry's phone number. How long will it take you to track his location?" Harry asked. "Give me 10 minutes. Stephen looked at Barry's phone number and immediately started operating it in front of the computer. Harry watched Stephen continuously turn on the programs and enter lines of code that he did not understand. He thought that Stephen was also a talent. If he got along well with him, he might be able to help him in the future. As Stephen operated the computer, he secretly looked at Harry out of the corner of his eye. Today, Harry had given him a huge shock. Harry, who had always kept a low profile, not only did he casually take out $30,000, but his arrogant and superior manner was even more shocking. In less than 10 minutes, Stephen turned the computer screen towards Harry with a smile. At this moment, the computer screen showed a satellite map of Maryland City, and at the bottom right corner of the map, a red dot was blinking. The location of the phone is right here. As for whether Barry is here or not, I can't guarantee. Stephen spread his hands and said helplessly. Harry said unhappily, "Why can't you promise?" "It's not like I can find out. I can hack into the traffic department system and obtain permission to check the surveillance system in the city. Then quickly investigate. Do you think the money is too little?" Harry narrowed his eyes. There was a dangerous look in his eyes. Stephen did not dare to offend Harry now. Harry casually gave him $30,000, which showed that Harry's identity was not simple. He did not want to cause trouble for himself. He quickly waved his hand. "It's not that I don't want to investigate you, but my computer model is too old. The configuration does not allow it." Harry felt helpless in his heart. He asked Stephen to send him the location and then left with Felton. "Felton, wait for me in the dormitory. I'll go find Barry and Chelsea," Harry said. "What? You're going by yourself? I'll go with you," Felton said hastily. "This matter was caused by the conflict between me and Matthew. Barry and Chelsea were only innocent and involved, so I'll settle this matter myself. You don't need to be implicated by me anymore." Harry patted Felton's shoulder and turned around to leave. Felton stretched out his hand and sighed deeply. Harry ran out of the school and stopped a taxi at the door. "Go to the heavy equipment factory in the eastern suburbs." The driver was stunned when he heard the address. "Get out of the car. It's too far away. I won't go there." He did not expect the driver to refuse. Harry threw out more than $200. "Are you going now?" "Go." The driver nodded. The traffic on the road was too heavy, so the taxi drove a little slowly. Harry tried his best to suppress his anxious heart and consider whether he should buy a car or not. He didn't really like the cars arranged by his family, so it was better to buy a car that he liked. This way, once he had something to do, it would be more convenient for him to travel. He sat in the car for nearly an hour and finally reached the place where Stephen was tracking. After Harry got out of the car, he took out $500 and handed it to the taxi driver. "Take this money and wait for me here. As long as you drive me back later, I will give you another $500. The taxi driver was so happy that he went crazy. He quickly nodded his head. At this moment, Harry turned and looked at the abandoned factory door at the side of the road. He took a deep breath. Episode 26. Bribery. In the abandoned factory, a man in a suit and glasses was making a phone call. "Sir, Harry is here." On the other end of the phone, Matthew said with a murderous look, "You know what to do. Cripple him." "Don't worry, our plan is flawless. We will teach him a lesson today." "Very good. Don't forget to record a video for me after you're done. I want to properly appreciate this kid's miserable state." Matthew laughed maniacally. He hung up the phone, and the bespectacled man ordered the few guards beside him. "The guest is here. Go and welcome him." Harry walked into the abandoned factory. As soon as he entered the door, a few big men rushed out and grappled Harry. "You really have the guts to come here alone," a man who seemed to be the leader sneered. The few of them laughed together. Their fierce-looking faces trembled along with them. The way they looked at Harry was like a fish on a chopping board. They could do whatever they wanted to him. Harry saw the attitude of these people. He understood that they had been waiting for him to deliver himself to them. All of this was a trap set by Matthew. Unfortunately, the only mistake in his plan was that they did not take Harry seriously. As the direct heir of the Parker family, Harry did not care about this predicament at all. He was not afraid at all. "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and leave." The man patted Harry's face. "Boss, I think he's so scared that he can't walk anymore." Harry frowned and asked, "Is my classmate in there?" "Why don't you go take a look for yourself?" The tattooed man pushed Harry without hesitation. Harry said coldly, "You better not hurt my classmate, or I'll make you regret it." "What is a student like you bragging about?" "I think he's scared silly. Matthew's $100,000 is really not worth it, another follower said. What? Harry asked. You talk a lot, don't you? Just keep walking, the man said impatiently. Harry sneered in his heart. $100,000? What did Matthew think of me as? He underestimated me too much. I, the dignified heir of the Parker family, am worth $100,000. If I tell anyone about this, it'll be a joke. I will give you 10 times the amount of money. Let go of my classmate and I, then you can go and find Matthew, Harry said. 10 times the money. That would be $1 million. Do you think I'm stupid? How can a poor student like you have so much money? That's right, we accepted Matthew's money, and now we have to be professional about it. Don't take it personally, it's just business. Boss, he keeps talking nonsense. Let's beat him up here. 20 times. I'll give you $2 million. Surely $2 million is enough to sway your minds, Harry said slowly. The tattooed men looked as if their acupoints had been poked. They immediately froze. Boss, $2 million. The tattooed man in the lead was moved. You're really that rich? As long as you promise me, I can transfer the money right now, Harry said confidently. The man looked troubled. We can't deal with Matthew alone, because he sent his own men to wait for you in the workshop. If we let you go, we can't bear the consequences. Harry saw him say this and said, How about this? I'll give you another $1 million. I don't want you to go after Matthew. You just need to bring the man Matthew sent here. Let's think about it. Seeing that the man was still hesitating, Harry said, This is $3 million. With this money, you can go anywhere you want. You don't have to worry about Matthew's revenge anymore. You only have one chance. Think about it. Boss, he has promised us $3 million. I know business is business, but surely we can look the other way this one time. I could really use the cash. That's right, boss. This is a rare opportunity. We've never earned more than $3 million. All right, we agree. The boss gritted his teeth and nodded his head in agreement. Harry smiled in satisfaction. He took out his phone and directly transferred $3 million to the tattooed man and the others. You're so straightforward. Come with me. We'll listen to your instructions when we enter the workshop later. The tattooed man looked at the $3 million in his hands and was so excited that he wanted to jump up and down. Harry was worried about Chelsea and Barry's safety in his heart, so he stopped wasting time with these people. He followed them into a worn-out workshop. No matter what, he had to see the two of them first. After he entered the workshop, the light suddenly dimmed. Harry narrowed his eyes and waited for a while before slowly getting used to the dimmer environment. He looked around and did not see Chelsea or Barry. Only a man with glasses sat on a chair. He was looking at Harry with a mocking expression. You are Harry, right? The man with glasses said. And who are you? Harry asked. The man in glasses said casually, You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that you will become very miserable today. Really? How miserable will I be? Harry asked calmly. You will know soon enough. The bespectacled man shouted loudly. What are you waiting for? Drag him here. Matthew is still waiting for me to give him the video. Since you want to make a video so badly, I'll also make one for you. Harry stretched out his hand and gestured. Are you crazy? You already in our territory. You're still talking nonsense. The man in glasses laughed at Harry's words. Harry shook his head. I always keep my word. Go back and tell Matthew that he has offended someone he shouldn't have. After saying that, Harry waved at the people behind him. They received Harry's order. The tattooed man, who had been prepared a long time ago, walked towards the bespectacled man with a sinister smile on his face. What are you all doing? Why are you grabbing me? Go and catch Harry! The bespectacled man was shocked and angry when he was pressed to the ground. These people must have made a mistake too, right? Why do they grab him instead of harming Harry? I told you guys can't afford to offend me. Let's send a video of Matthew, a video of our own. Harry ordered, Don't! Please! Stop! No! The bespectacled man let out a few miserable cries in succession, and the last one was even more miserable. After the miserable cries, his eyes widened and he fainted while foaming at the mouth.
Boss, the work is done. The man wiped his hands and spoke to Harry. Where's my classmate? As soon as Harry finished speaking, he saw Barry being brought out. He was tied up by a rope, and his mouth was covered with tape. When he saw Harry, he was so excited that he stumbled over. Harry was puzzled. Why is it only him? Where's the other girl? The tattooed man said with a puzzled expression, What girl? We caught him alone.
Episode 27. Eye of Dark Night. What? Harry was shocked. He was not worried that the tattooed man would lie to him. After the tattooed man accepted Harry's $3 million, he had already broken off relation with Matthew. There was no need for him to lie to Harry. Could it be that Matthew had sent two groups of people? He was too insidious. Barry, who was standing at the side, gestured at Harry. Harry reached out his hand to remove the tape. Barry panted a few times and said, Chelsea should be fine. These people took me here directly after they captured me. They didn't go to look for Chelsea. The tattooed man and the others nodded. We really didn't catch the girl you mentioned. Harry heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that Chelsea was fine. In that case, we'll go our separate ways. Barry, let's go back to school. They were also trustworthy thugs. They accepted Harry's money and did not harm Barry. In fact, they were very nervous about Harry. Harry was able to fight with Matthew, and he even casually took out $3 million. He definitely wasn't the poor student they thought he was. He must also be an heir. They could not afford to offend someone with such a background. I almost forgot something. Harry had just walked a few steps before he retreated again. He walked to the side of the bespectacled man who had fainted on the ground and bent over to pick up the phone that he had dropped on the ground. He turned on the video recording of the phone and took a picture of the bespectacled man. However, after taking pictures for a while, Harry felt that the effect was not very good. He said to the man, "Wake him up." The tattooed man received the order and directly poured a bucket of ice water on the man in glasses. The man in glasses was stimulated by the cold water and immediately woke up. He subconsciously spat out the water in his mouth and howled miserably again. Only then did Harry start recording the video with satisfaction. "Let me go. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have provoked you. Please let me go." The bespectacled man crawled towards Harry with great difficulty. Harry looked at him coldly and ignored the bespectacled man's plea for mercy. He took 4 to 5 minutes to record the most miserable situation of the bespectacled man into his phone. Only then did he turn the camera around and let himself appear in the video. He sneered and said, "Matthew, I told you that you can't afford to offend me. How dare you play such dirty tricks on me? Your subordinate is a warning." After saying that, he stopped recording and sent the video to Matthew. At this moment, in the villa of the Bannon family, Matthew Bannon was intimately embracing a young model in his bedroom. The phone on the bed rang. Matthew's movements did not stop. He reached out and took the phone. When he saw that it was the bespectacled man who sent him the video, he felt even more pleased. "Harry, this is the consequence of offending me. You must not feel good about your legs being broken. Let your screams cheer me up." As he was thinking, he turned on the video. Hearing the miserable wails, Matthew was extremely excited and his movements couldn't help but speed up. However, when he saw that the person in the video was actually his subordinate, the bespectacled man, Matthew was stunned. The intense movements slowly stopped. "What's wrong, baby? Why did you stop? I was so close," the tender girl underneath him asked coyly. "Get lost." The unexpected scene in the video shocked Matthew. It was a perfect trap waiting for Harry to fall into it, but it wasn't Harry who had his legs broken. It was the bespectacled man. What the hell was going on? "Just wait for me to wipe out the entire Bannon family." At the end of the video, Harry said those threatening words. Matthew, who was shocked and angry at the same time, threw his phone to the ground and said while gnashing his teeth, "Those useless trash. He could not even deal with Harry. Harry still wants to take revenge on me. Let's see what you can do." Harry brought Barry back to school. Felton, who was waiting anxiously in the dormitory for the two of them, only felt relieved when he saw them return, and there were no injuries on their bodies. "You guys finally came back. Nothing happened, right?" Barry forced a smile with lingering fear. "It's fine. It's all thanks to Harry. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to escape those brutes." "Harry, how did you save Barry?" Felton asked. Barry also looked at Harry with a puzzled look. Although he was saved by Harry, he was still confused. Those tattooed men had clearly captured him and were waiting to cripple Harry. However, Harry had inexplicably turned the situation around, crippling the bespectacled man. This was something from a movie, but this was Harry. It didn't make sense. "It's very simple. Matthew paid them to capture you to lure me in so they could beat me up and most likely cripple me. Instead, I paid them more than Matthew did so that I wouldn't be harmed." Harry did not mind revealing the situation and smiled. Barry and Felton immediately became silent. Matthew must have spent a lot of money to hire people to teach them a lesson. Harry actually paid more than Matthew and bribed those thugs instead. How much did that cost? Barry's heart was still trembling. He had not recovered from the fear of being kidnapped. Although Harry suddenly appeared at the critical moment and saved him, the vicious means Harry used on the man with glasses scared Barry. He was just an ordinary student. He had never seen such a bloody scene. At this time, Barry was more and more confused about Harry's identity. Was Harry his roommate who picked up trash, or was some rich heir who liked to play pretend? "Barry, you have been harmed because of me today. You should rest in the dormitory first. I will treat you to a meal some other day. I still have some things to do, so I will go out first." As Harry spoke, he took out a backpack filled with cash from his cupboard and walked out of the dormitory. A taxi pulled up to a club called Eye of Dark Night. Harry took the taxi here and looked at the flashing neon lights at the door. On the surface, this was a clubhouse, but in reality, it was secretly buying and selling information. Customers only needed to spend money to get any information they wanted, and their information was always reliable. Harry had come here to inquire about the information of Matthew's family. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Only by understanding the weakness of your enemy would you be able to deal a fatal blow. It was meaningless to only deal with just Matthew now. Only by destroying Matthew's family and turning him into a beggar with nothing could Harry vent his hatred. Harry walked into the Eye of Dark Night, but two guards in suits at the door stopped him. "This is a private membership club. No one is allowed to enter." "I'm here to be a member. You can't let me in, can't you?" The guards looked at Harry. They saw that Harry was a young boy. They smiled contemptuously and said, "No." Harry sighed and took out 2 stacks of cash. One stack was 10,000, and he handed it to the 2 guards. "Can I go in now?" The 2 guards took the money and put it in their pockets. They silently made way for Harry. Episode 28. The Beautiful Woman. Harry smiled and entered the clubhouse. After passing through the living room, he entered a large hall. The hall was empty. There was only a woman standing at the bar opposite him. He walked straight to the bar in the lobby and sat on a tall stool. Behind the bar stood a beautiful young woman, about 30 years old. She had a charming appearance and curly brown hair. She was wearing light makeup, revealing her naturally beautiful face. Her eyes were like a deep pool, and under her nose was a small mouth that was painted with bright red lipstick, giving off an alluring scent. Her every frown and smile affected the nerves of men. This was a mature and charming woman from the inside to the outside. She seduced everyone's thoughts. "I heard that you could gather any information here." Harry casually ordered a glass of wine and took a sip before asking directly. The beautiful young woman did not answer Harry's question. Instead, she gave him a seductive look and said, "This is your first time here. Aren't you lonely all by yourself? Why don't you treat me to a drink first?" She really is a demoness, Harry thought in his heart. This woman was really seductive to the bone, making him almost lose control. "Do you want me to buy you a drink?" "No problem," Harry nodded. The beautiful young woman smiled sweetly. She poured herself a glass of wine and gently clinked it with Harry's glass. "Little boy, what information do you want to know?" "Matthew from Maryland University, as well as information about his family." "I want a detailed information," Harry said. The beautiful young woman chuckled and put down her wine glass. "Handsome boy, do you know the rules of the Eye of Dark Night?" "I can give you information, but it comes at a price." The beautiful young woman rubbed her fingers. "No problem, as long as you can provide what I want," Harry said, putting his backpack on the bar counter and patting it, indicating that all the cash was inside. "News about the Bannon family in Maryland." The beautiful young woman leaned over to Harry and reached out her slender fingers to lift Harry's chin. She put on a seducing posture and said, "200,000, you pay, I will give you the information." Harry subconsciously wanted to grab the beautiful young woman's hand, but she didn't give Harry the chance to take advantage of her and quickly withdrew. 200,000? That's really cheap." Harry smiled and took out 200,000 in cash from his backpack and placed it on the bar counter. He pushed it towards the beautiful woman. The beautiful young woman took the cash and said with a smile, "Boy, wait for me for a moment." Saying so, she turned around and left. Harry slowly tasted the wine and waited. He wasn't the kind of person who would passively take a beating. Since Matthew had used a ruthless move on him, Harry wasn't a person to be trifled with. Normally, he wouldn't make a move, but once Matthew made his move, it forced Harry's hand to retaliate. Coming to this Eye of Dark Night was his first step in counterattacking. Matthew was just an arrogant heir who relied on his family's influence. Putting aside his family, he was just a useless straw bag. As long as Harry destroyed his family, Matthew wouldn't be able to be arrogant anymore. He waited for about 10 minutes. The beautiful young woman walked back with a thick stack of documents in her hands and placed it in front of Harry. "The information about the Bannon family is here. Take your time to read it." The information was very detailed and categorized. Matthew and his family seemed to have spread themselves out for all to see. Matthew was the heir of the Bannon family in Maryland, and his father, Walter Bannon, was the chairman of the Coral Group. The Coral Group was the main enterprise of the Bannon family, and the Bannon family had 57% of the shares. The Coral Group mainly operated steel trade and cargo logistics. Recently, they had transferred a large amount of funds to prepare for the luxury clothing industry. The total assets of the company were $30 billion. Looking at the information, Harry smiled. The Coral Group seemed to be very huge. It monopolized the steel and cargo trade in Maryland City and the surrounding cities. The market value of $30 billion was considered a huge figure in the eyes of ordinary people. It could not be easily shaken. However, from this information, Harry slowly found a fatal weakness of the Bannon family. "This is really unexpected. This is going even smoother than I imagined." Harry put down the information and a cold expression emerged on his face. From this information, Harry could tell that the Coral Group had recently transferred a large amount of funds to develop a new industry and enter the luxury clothing market. They had also placed their focus on this. However, although the $30 billion worth of assets in their company seemed to be a lot, the actual circulating funds that the company could use were pitifully little. The new industry that Coral Group was involved in this time was to be developed nationwide. They were planning to monopolize the market, and their appetite and ambition were very high. They had made a huge loan with the bank half a year ago to support their plan to expand into the new market. The bank that provided loans to Coral Group happened to be the City Bank of Harry's family. This made Harry feel pleasantly surprised. In other words, Matthew's family business was now all counting on the loans provided by the City Bank of Harry's family to run. This was equivalent to them putting their neck under Harry's knife without knowing it. Gorgeous. The Coral Group is putting everything on the line. Don't tell me they didn't leave anything behind. Aren't they afraid that because they can't open the market in their new industry, their capital chain will break? Harry asked the beautiful young woman. According to our investigation, Coral Group had been preparing for the luxury clothing industry for a few years. They have made through preparations in all aspects, and only one more chance is left. What do you mean? Harry did not understand what the beautiful woman meant by last chance. The International Clothing Design Competition held in Maryland this weekend. Bannon family was determined to win this competition. As long as they have publicity, as well as a series of marketing advertisements, if they enter the luxury market, it would be advantageous, and they could recoup any losses they may have undergone to get into the market. The beautiful woman sipped her red wine and slowly said, "No one would have thought that the Coral Group was such a big company." In the eyes of this beautiful young woman, it was as if it was completely transparent without any secrets. Harry thought for a moment and asked, "If the Bannon family can't win the championship in this international clothing competition, will it be a serious blow to them?" The clothing competition is a very important part of their plan. If they lose the championship, it will be a huge blow to them, and it will be detrimental to their future plans. What about Citibank taking back the loan they gave them? Harry had a cold smile on his face. The Coral Group's share price will drop like a stone in water. No one will want their shares then. After that, they will go bankrupt. The Coral Group seems to have a fierce momentum now, but they are actually like riding a bicycle on a wire. The chain of the bicycle is their family's property. The chain is already very tight. Once the funds are broken, they won't have time to look for other banks to provide financial aid. Their family's business chain will collapse like dominoes. That's such a pity, Harry said regretfully, but the expression on his face was even colder. Matthew, I will send you to hell this time. Episode 29. Drink with Her. An heir like Matthew had enjoyed the most luxurious life ever since he was young. Once his money ran out, Matthew would be lost without any hope of recovering. Once Harry made his family bankrupt, Matthew would suddenly turn from a high and mighty young heir to a beggar. This kind of change in status was like sending him to hell. Darling, the wine here is not bad. I'll come often in the future. Now I have to leave, Harry said and prepared to leave. You're leaving now? Don't you want to sit a little longer? I'll be quite lonely all by myself. The beautiful young woman tilted her head and looked at Harry with a smile. He was seduced by her. Harry's footsteps paused, and he sat down again. At the moment, he did not need to do anything, so why not sit and chat with such a beautiful woman? How should I address you? You can call me Miss Rose. How should I address you? Miss Rose was just like her name. Her words carried a charm to all living things. My surname is Parker, and my name is Harry. Miss Rose searched in her mind, but she had never seen this person in her memory. This was the first time meeting, and Harry gave people the feeling that he was just an ordinary student. But he immediately took out $200,000 a moment ago. This was not something an ordinary student can do. Just now, he took out $20,000 to bribe the security guards to let him in. He was so generous with his money that Miss Rose felt that Harry was not as simple as he looked. Have another drink. This one is on me. Miss Rose wanted to keep Harry and investigate his background. Harry did not mind. He said, "Okay, thank you, Miss Rose." He had just taken a sip of wine when a commotion suddenly came from upstairs. "Let me go! I won't do this! Let me go back!" A familiar female voice entered Harry's ears. "You said you're not going to do it. You're here to drink with me, not to be a prude. Customers are always right. You have to agree to any request. Hurry up and go back. Don't make me force you to do it." The other man's voice was very fierce. Chelsea? Harry looked up and found it was the president of Students' Union. Harry was very surprised. Why was she here? He thought that she was caught by Matthew today, but he did not expect that she actually worked here. Eye of Dark Night, the first floor was the light music bar, and the second floor was the private rooms. It looked normal, but in fact, after the guest entered the private room, they could let the woman here drink with them. Of course, if the guest had some sort of impulse, they would also have to provide some special services. What happened behind closed doors stayed behind closed doors. Chelsea was the president of student unions of Maryland University. She was very outstanding, and she was also very beautiful. Anyone would think that she was a pure and good girl. However, he did not expect that she would actually do such a thing here. The difference between the two identities was too great, and it really surprised Harry. Harry thought that he had mistaken her for someone else, but when he looked carefully, although she was wearing thick makeup, it was undoubtedly Chelsea. Seeing that she seemed to have encountered some trouble, Harry thought about how Chelsea had accused Matthew in the canteen today. She had helped him, so he could not ignore her now. So he stood up and walked upstairs. "Chelsea, I was looking for you this afternoon. I didn't expect to meet you here." Harry greeted her. "Who are you? You must have mistaken me for someone else. I'm not Chelsea." When Chelsea saw that it was Harry, her heart was in a panic. Her head was lowered, and she did not dare to look up at Harry. No one knew that she was drinking with someone. In order not to meet someone she knew, she even went to Eye of Dark Night, which was very far away from the school. Plus, ordinary people could not come in here. She originally thought that she would not be discovered by her classmates, but she did not expect to meet Harry. "You don't need to pretend that you don't know me. You just helped me today, and you even accompanied me to the infirmary. I am not that forgetful," Harry smiled. Chelsea was stunned and did not know how to answer. Doing this kind of work was already shameful enough, and she was even seen by her classmates. Chelsea even wanted to die. "What seems to be the problem?" Harry asked again. He turned to look at the man standing beside her. The man said unhappily, "Mind your own business. She would drink with the others and sleep with them sooner or later. Now that she's refusing, she's making her guests very unhappy. We need to teach her a lesson." "And he is?" Harry asked Chelsea. "My boss," Chelsea said in a low voice. "Chelsea, I'm asking you one last time. Go back and apologize to the guest immediately. You have to agree to any request of the guest. Otherwise, I will let the whole school know what kind of work you do." Chief became impatient and threatened loudly. "No, I'm sorry, please. You must not do this." Chelsea was frightened. As the president of Students' Union of Maryland University, she wanted to be an example for all the students. But if the whole school knew that she was a bar girl outside, her reputation would be tarnished, and the school would not tolerate her. They would definitely expel her. "Chief, I'll go back now," Chelsea said with tears in her eyes. "Wait a minute." Harry stopped her. He said to her boss, whose name tag said Chief, "I'm also a guest here. Now I want her to be my bar girl." Chief sneered. "Who are you? You still want her? Get lost." Chief had already heard from their conversation that Harry was Chelsea's classmate. He was just an ordinary university student. Although he did not know how he managed to sneak into the clubhouse, it was ridiculous for him to say that he was a client here. The people in Eye of Dark Night were all people with status. Why would a student pretend to be a big shot? "You are a poor person. Do you know how much a bar girl here costs? Save that bit of money and go back to pay your tuition fees," Chief said, and wanted to drag Chelsea back. "I am poor?" Harry sneered. He took out a stack of money and threw it on Chief's face. 10,000. Can you let her be my bar girl?" The money hit Chief's face and instantly fell to his feet. Chief was stunned by the $10,000. Harry saw that he didn't speak, so he took out another stack and threw it at him. 20,000. Can it be?" Seeing that he didn't say anything, Harry opened his backpack and threw it at Chief's head. More than $100,000 were thrown at Chief's head. The scattered cash looked like it was going to bury Chief. "Is this enough money? Speak." Chief was scared silly. What did it feel like to have tens of thousands of dollars thrown at his head? He felt that he had done something wrong today. This Chelsea's classmate identity was not ordinary. This was the first time he had encountered something like smashing people with hundreds of thousands of dollars. He was not stupid. He dared to cause trouble in Eye of Dark Night and was so generous. His family must have both power and background. He was just a tiny chief, and he couldn't afford to offend such a person. Chief quickly bowed and bowed. He said, "Yes, Chelsea, quickly bring the guests to the private room. You accompany the guests to drink." Episode 30. She was willing. Chelsea was still standing there with a blank expression. Chief urged her, "Chelsea, what are you waiting for? Why aren't you taking the guests to play? You must have fun with the guests." As he spoke, he quickly laid on the ground and hugged the money. Harry looked at him. He could not stop the disgust in his heart. He kicked him away. "Don't block the way here. Get lost." "Okay." Chief frantically crawled a few steps away to give Harry a way out. He did not mind Harry kicking him. All the customers who can come here to spend money had power and influence. Although he was chief, if he offended the customers, the owner would still punish him. Harry strode over the guy's head, grabbed Chelsea's hand, and walked into an empty room. Chelsea was still confused when the door of the room was closed. "Harry, where did you get so much money? Who are you?" Chelsea was a president of the Students' Union, so she was familiar with all the special students in the school. The impression Harry gave her was that his family was poor. He had picked up trash from students at school for 3 years, so how could he casually throw out hundreds of thousands? And he even looked like he didn't care. Harry didn't want to hide it from her anymore. He opened a bottle of wine and poured it into his glass. After taking a sip, he slowly said, "I'm actually the heir to a wealthy family. My personal assets are tens of billions, and my family's assets are hundreds of times more than mine." Chelsea was shocked. Tens of billions of assets were already hard to imagine for her, but how much was a few hundred times of a few hundred billions? She really did not know if Harry was telling the truth or lying. "Why do you work in this kind of place again?" Harry handed her a glass of wine and asked. Chelsea took a sip and laughed self-deprecatingly. "I need money." Harry frowned and spoke. "No matter how much you need, you can't do this kind of work. You can do part-time work and do any normal work. If you just drink with someone here, that's fine, but you also know that this job isn't that simple. If it wasn't for me just now, you would have been in danger." Everyone in this world needed money. But as a student of a famous university, she was still president of Students' Union. For money, she did this kind of work without dignity. This would make people look down on her from the bottom of their hearts. Chelsea's emotions burst out when Harry said the pain in the center. "Do you think I'm willing? You're a rich person. Do you know the despair of poor people who need money urgently but can't get it? I can earn a few $1,000 tips by working here for a night. If other jobs also had such a high income, do you think I would be willing to do such a degrading job?" After Chelsea finished speaking, she covered her face and cried bitterly. Her own heart was bearing a burden that others did not know about. On one hand, she urgently needed money and threw away her dignity to be a bar girl. On the other hand, she was a respected president of Students' Union. This kind of identity conflict made her feel extremely tormented. Harry saw her like this and said apologetically, "I'm sorry. Perhaps what I said was a little too much." Chelsea wiped away her tears and forced a smile on her face as she said, "It's fine. I should not have vented my emotions on you. After all, you did it for my own good. You even helped me just now." Harry sighed. He was not prepared to understand why Chelsea urgently needed money. Everyone had their own difficulties, and Chelsea might not be willing to tell him. Their relationship was not deep. "Let's not talk about this anymore. Just now, you took out hundreds of thousands to save me. I should accompany you to drink. It's not fun to just drink. Do you want me to sing a song for you?" Chelsea got up and prepared to go and sing. Harry pulled her back and shook his head. "Don't do this kind of work. You should go back to school." Chelsea smiled bitterly. "Impossible. I can't cut off the income here. The boss won't let me leave easily." "How much do you need? Is 1 million enough?" Harry said and took Chelsea's phone. After adding her account number, he casually transferred 1 million to her. The reason Harry helped Chelsea this way was because she was speaking up for justice in the canteen today. In order to help Harry, she even did not hesitate to offend an heir like Matthew. In Chelsea's eyes, Harry was just a poor student who picked up scraps. However, it was her actions of not being afraid of power, and daring to stand up for ordinary people that made Harry admire her greatly. There were too many people in society who supported power and greed. Chelsea, on the other hand, had such a precious quality that no amount of money could buy her. Furthermore, to Harry, a mere 1 million was nothing. "Harry, why are you helping me like this? I'm not worth your help." Chelsea saw that Harry gave her $1 million without saying anything. She did not even have time to stop him. She was very surprised in her heart. "You need money, and I have money. That's all." Harry smiled and said, "This is 1 million. I can't accept your money for no reason." Chelsea hesitated. "Then just take it that I borrowed from you. Don't have any psychological burdens. 1 million is really nothing to me." Harry spread out his hands, indicating that he didn't care at all. "I won't be able to pay you back in a short period of time." Chelsea bit her lips, her heart constantly struggling, as if she was making a decision. After a long silence, she suddenly stood up and faced Harry. She immediately sat on his lap. Her upper body was pressed against Harry's, and her head was pressed against his chest. Harry could not see her blushing face. Harry was stunned by Chelsea's actions. "What are you doing?" "I have thought about it. Rather than having sex with those messy men, I might as well be with you." Chelsea's voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible. Harry did not expect her to make such a decision and was speechless for a moment. "This is the only way I can repay you. Besides, you have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on me, a bar girl. I want to give you the best service. This isn't my first time." As she spoke, Chelsea raised her head and used her soft and tender lips to kiss Harry's mouth. Harry's breathing instantly became heavy. Speaking of which, he had drunk quite a lot of wine tonight, and now was not the time to be intoxicated. The beauty was in his arms, and their bodies were in close contact with each other. Their lips were even in close contact, and all of this kept teasing his nerves. Harry, who was drunk, felt his blood boil. He subconsciously hugged Chelsea's slender waist and took the initiative to respond to Chelsea's offer. However, when Harry, who was gradually immersed in his lust, saw the trace of unwillingness in her eyes, he immediately regained his reason. Chelsea was different from Stacy. Stacy was willing to give herself to Harry, but Chelsea clearly still had some unwillingness in her heart. She had no choice but to use this method to repay Harry. Although Harry wanted something to happen, after all, it was the girl who took the initiative to give it to him, but he was not willing to force others. "You don't have to do this. I told you that you don't have to do this kind of thing in the future. Don't tell me that 1 million isn't enough for you?" Harry asked. Chelsea shook her head quietly and smiled bitterly. "This kind of thing will happen sooner or later. It is easy to enter this club. It is not that easy to get out." Episode 31. Destruction. In Harry's eyes, Eye of Dark Night was just a small power that sold information. He could use it as a tool occasionally. However, if Eye of Dark Night didn't let go of the people Harry wanted, then the only thing that awaited them was destruction. "Don't worry, I said you can leave. No one will dare to stop you." Harry smiled. His tone was arrogant. To Chelsea, Eye of Dark Night was a huge net. It made her fall deeper and deeper into it. Now that Harry was able to take her away with just a single word, he didn't take this place seriously. This shocked Chelsea. She had no idea what kind of background Harry had. He was able to say such a thing. Harry would not explain it to her in detail. After all, Chelsea was just an ordinary person. She could not imagine what kind of huge power the Parker family was hiding in this world. He got up and walked out of the door. Chelsea's chief was standing respectfully by the door. "Respected guest, are you satisfied with your stay? Do you have any other needs?" Chief said flatteringly. "Ask your boss to come and see me." After saying that, Harry turned around and returned to the private room. He wasn't worried that the boss wouldn't come. If he really dared to not see Harry, Eye of Dark Night would become nothing. Not long after, someone knocked on the door of the private room. "Come in," Harry greeted him. Harry looked up and was slightly surprised. Harry did not expect the boss of Eye of Dark Night to be the beautiful young lady, Miss Rose, who was behind the bar just now. "Little boy, have you not had enough fun with the girls here? Or do you think I'm more suitable for your appetite?" Miss Rose teased as soon as she entered the room. Harry smiled and gestured for her to take a seat first. Then, he went straight to the point. "Miss Rose, Chelsea is my classmate. She will not come here to work in the future. I hope you can let her leave and not make things difficult for her again." "Boy, you're making things difficult for me by doing this. After all, Eye of Dark Night has our rules. You can't enter and exit this place as you wish," Miss Rose said lightly. Although she didn't know about Harry's background, her many years of information and experience allowed Miss Rose to judge that Harry was just a small family's heir. After all, there had never been an extraordinary family in Maryland. Although Miss Rose treated Harry warmly and even had some teasing intentions, she only treated Harry as a normal customer. In addition, Harry was not old and was also very handsome, so she teased him. But now it was different. Harry pointed at the bar girl. If he had fun, it would have been fine, but he still wanted to take the girl away. This broke Miss Rose's rules. Harry did not care about Miss Rose's attitude at all. He asked casually, "What do I have to do to take her away?" "Little boy, this is your first time coming to the Eye of Dark Night. You don't know the rules here, so I don't blame you. But I've already made it very clear. You can't take her away. You better think about your abilities. Not everyone in the Eye of Dark Night can come and provoke us." Miss Rose's words implied a threat. Harry's expression was indifferent. He did not care about Miss Rose's threat at all. Instead, he smiled. "Miss Rose, don't be so decisive. I know very well what kind of place Eye of Dark Night is. But when I said that I would take Chelsea away, no one can stop me today. If the Eye of Dark Night does not know the current situation, believe it or not, I will turn this place into a pile of ruins tonight." Although Harry had a smile on his face towards Miss Rose could vaguely feel that his eyes were full of confidence. He was sure that he could do what he said. "You dare to provoke the Eye of Dark Night? Do you know the consequences? Don't even think about seeing tomorrow's sun when you go out now," Miss Rose shouted sternly. Although she looked like a delicate and beautiful young woman, in reality, she was the queen of the underground forces of Maryland. In the entire Maryland, there was no force that the Eye of Dark Night couldn't afford to offend. Miss Rose didn't know where Harry got his confidence from. Harry looked at Miss Rose with a mocking gaze. "Don't be too sure. Since you are in charge of the intelligent work, why didn't you investigate my identity first?" Miss Rose was stunned. She did not know what Harry meant. Was he really not afraid that the forces behind him could take over Eye of Dark Night? Or was he just being too arrogant? But from the moment Harry entered until now, she hadn't investigated Harry's background in detail. This was also a mistake of hers. "I'll give you 10 minutes. Go and investigate my identity. Perhaps when you come in again, your thoughts will be different," Harry said in a mocking tone. Miss Rose held back the anger in her heart and walked out without saying a word. Chelsea saw the conversation just now. She wanted to help Harry say something to make him not offend Miss Rose, but the difference in status made her have no room to speak. Miss Rose was the boss of Eye of Dark Night, and she was one of the top powers hidden in the underground of Maryland. And Chelsea was only a bar girl in the club. Her status was low, so how could she have the right to speak? "Harry, you don't know how powerful the boss is. You can't afford to offend her, so you should just apologize to her later. Even if today is over, don't bring up the matter of taking me away anymore," Chelsea said anxiously. Harry saw that Chelsea was still helping him without caring about anything. He was very touched and felt that Chelsea was really stupid. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. It's not that I offended her. It's that she doesn't dare to offend me. She is just a local snake in Maryland. Does she really think that she can become a queen and dominate?" Chelsea looked at Harry's confident smile and couldn't help but believe what he said. At this moment, Harry was emitting the aura of a king in Chelsea's eyes. His smile gave people a sense of pride, and his eyes were filled with dominance. Chelsea stared straight at Harry, intoxicated by his boundless dominance. She felt an inexplicable sense of security. Less than 10 minutes later, Miss Rose walked into the private room with a slightly flustered look on her face. "Mr. Parker." Miss Rose was no longer as arrogant as before. She was very respectful to Harry. There was a complicated look in her eyes. There was shock, fear, and even a trace of joy. Harry said with a smile, "You figured it out yet? I didn't expect you to be the direct heir of the Parker family. My attitude towards you just now was too rude. Please forgive my rudeness. I'm really sorry." Miss Rose carefully apologized to Harry. "You do have some sensibility. Can I take Chelsea away now?" Harry nodded and praised the intelligence work of Eye of Dark Knight. Not everyone could find out his identity. It was already an outstanding ability for Eye of Dark Knight to find out that Harry was the heir of Parker family. Miss Rose said respectfully, "It is our Eye of Dark Knight's honor that you have taken a liking to Chelsea. How could we dare to stop you from letting her go? Chelsea is not a bar girl here from now on. You can leave at any time." Episode 32. Harry bought a car. Miss Rose didn't dare to not let Chelsea go. When she investigated Harry's identity, her first reaction was disbelief. She thought she had made a mistake. But after repeatedly verifying that the information was accurate and true, Miss Rose's forehead immediately broke out in cold sweat and was so scared that she could hardly stand. There were many families in this world, but the only one that could make her feel extreme fear was the Parkers. The Parker family was an underground family that controlled 1/3 of the world's wealth. Compared to her, the so-called Queen of Maryland City, it was simply the difference between a small village and an empire. As long as the Parker family had a single thought, the Eye of Dark Knight would be turned into ashes overnight. This was not an exaggeration. Miss Rose did not expect Harry to have such a powerful background. She also did not expect that the heir of the Parker family would undergo family training in the heart of Maryland. She felt a wave of fear in her heart. She had almost offended Harry just now. If there was no way to please Harry, then she would be doomed forever. After that, Miss Rose felt lucky that Harry was not too strong and had given her enough leeway. There was a trace of excitement in her heart. If she could maintain a good relationship with Harry and the Parker family, then the future of Eye of Dark Knight would be limitless. Miss Rose hoped to borrow Harry's background to develop and strengthen Eye of Dark Knight. So she fawned over Harry and sent Chelsea and him out of the club. When they stood on the street, a cool breeze blew over. Chelsea only regained her senses after trembling for a while. "I have left the Eye of Dark Knight. I will never be controlled by them again." Chelsea felt very incredulous in her heart. She left the huge net that she thought she would not be able to break free from just like that. All of this happened too quickly, making her feel like she was in an unrealistic dream. She looked at the indifferent Harry beside her. She was even more puzzled. What kind of identity did he have to make Miss Rose, who had such a powerful business, bow to him? Chelsea knew that Harry was definitely not an ordinary heir. Otherwise, he would not be able to take her away so easily. But she was also puzzled. Since Harry had an extraordinary identity, why did he still pick up trash from school for 3 years? This was really against common sense. Harry saw Chelsea's various expressions on her face, and his expression was conflicted. He said, "Don't let your imagination run wild. You have already left Eye of Dark Knight. Isn't it worth being happy about?" Chelsea smiled. "If it wasn't for you, Miss Rose wouldn't have let me go so easily. Now I really don't know how to repay you." Speaking up to this point, Chelsea thought about how she threw herself in Harry's arms in the private room and immediately became shy again. "Although you didn't have any relationship with me just now, my first time will always be saved for you. When you want it, you can come and find me at any time. After Chelsea said those words with her eyes closed, she was shocked. Chelsea did not know why she would say such bold words, but since she said it, she couldn't take it back. She did not know that she had some resistance just now, but now she had some expectations. Harry laughed involuntarily. Since Chelsea had said such words as a girl, wouldn't it make her very sad if he rejected her directly? He nodded. Okay. Chelsea saw Harry agree and immediately did not dare to look at him again. I'll go back to school first. As she spoke, she quickly stopped a taxi and got in. She ran away like a wisp of smoke and disappeared. Harry smiled and also stopped a taxi. I want to go to East Street. After Harry told the driver the address, he leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes, deep in thought. Matthew wanted to use the champion of the fashion design competition as the stepping stone for the family's new industry. The first step of counterattack was to make him unable to win the championship. Harry recalled Jen saying that she also wanted to participate in the international fashion competition. The corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a smile. Matthew, I'll let you relax for a few days first. You won't have a chance to be proud of yourself in the future. Sir, we have arrived at East Street, the driver said. Harry opened his eyes and looked at both sides of the street. East Street was a relatively crowded place in Maryland City. The reason Harry came here was to buy a car. Generally speaking, men would have feelings for cars that they could not part with. Buying a car was like looking for a partner. Many men even called cars their wives and would cherish their cars. Harry was no exception. The car provided by the family belonged to the family, although it was allocated to him. After all, it was not the model Harry liked, and he usually did not want to use it. When they arrived at the entrance of the unknown VTR 4S shop, Harry's eyes lit up, and he asked the driver to stop at the side. The VTR was a top brand that specialized in producing pure-blood cross-country cars. The exterior design of each car was very tough and sturdy, and it was very much in line with Harry's taste. People said that real men played with off-road vehicles, and only weak men drove sports cars. Harry agreed with this point of view. He did not like the exaggerated appearance of sports cars and the short body of the car, which made people feel weak just by looking at it. Harry walked into the store. A beautiful saleslady saw him enter and greeted him. Hello, aren't you Harry Parker? The female salesman looked at Harry and said in surprise. Harry asked curiously, You know me? I'm Cindy. We were in the same class when we were in the first year of high school. After the second year of high school, we were no longer in the same class. Don't you remember me? Harry really did not remember her. He felt a little awkward. After thinking for a while, he vaguely remembered that there was such a classmate. It's you. You're dressed so formally. I didn't recognize you at all, Harry smiled and said. Cindy was quite pretty. She wore a snow-white shirt on her upper body, which stuck close to her body. Her chest was very obvious. She was wearing black tights, which made her legs long and slender. She had delicate makeup on her face, which made her look professional and experienced. Cindy kept looking at Harry. She saw Harry get out of the taxi just now, and now she saw Harry dressed like a normal person, with a backpack on his back. She suddenly had a sense of superiority in her heart. After many people entered society, they met classmates whom they had not seen for a long time, and they all wanted to compete with each other. It was very strange, but it was a very common phenomenon. Did you buy a house? Did you buy a car? How much was the house? What brand was the car? What kind of work was it? If they found out that they were stronger than others, they would feel a sense of satisfaction and superiority in their hearts. Cindy's current state of mind was like this. After working for a few years, she had long been able to determine the social status of this person through a person's clothing, appearance, and temperament. In Cindy's eyes, Harry was clearly the kind of ordinary person who ran around on the streets. Cindy instantly looked down on Harry. She felt that it was too embarrassing for a boy to be like this. She looked at Harry, who was carrying a bag on his back. She asked plainly, Harry, what are you doing here? Are you here to sell something? Harry had yet to tell Cindy that he was in fact here to buy a car. Episode 33. Old Classmate. It had to be said that Harry's current attire was really similar to those who ran all over the streets looking for people to sell their credit cards. Cindy looked down on him even more in her eyes. She felt that Harry's current job had no future. Harry was stunned and said, "Credit cards? I'm not here to promote a credit card." "Then you're here to apply for the job, right?" Cindy crossed her arms and looked at him with disdain. "When we hire a salesman in our shop, we need to have temperament. You do not meet the requirements. Although you look good, you're just too uncouth. You have to know that this is the VTR. They sell cars worth tens of millions of dollars, and their customers are all high-end people. They can't do business with people like you." Cindy interrupted Harry without waiting for him to finish. Her words were very rude. "I'm not here to apply for the job." "Don't be embarrassed. It's not shameful for you to look for a job, but you can't be hired by our shop. Why don't you try the PP4S shop on the street? You will have a better chance there." PP cars had always been sold at the cheapest price, and the quality was also the worst. They never had the lowest standards for hiring salespeople, as long as they were not mute. Cindy's meaning was that Harry was only qualified to go there. He was not qualified to work in a high-end, luxurious 4S store. Harry was a little angry. He felt that Cindy was sick and did not want him to finish his words. "I'm not here to sell a card, nor am I here to apply for a job. I'm here to buy a car," Harry said. Cindy widened her eyes and shouted exaggeratedly, "You're here to buy a car? Was there a mistake? Do you know how much the lowest car in the VTR cost? And didn't you always pick up trash?" Cindy's loud noise attracted a lot of attention. When the staff heard her say that Harry was a scavenger and still wanted to buy a car, they couldn't hold back their laughter. No matter how good Harry's temper was, he was still angered by Cindy. "Are you hard of hearing, or is there something wrong with your brain? I'm here to buy a car. You just need to introduce me. What nonsense are you talking about?" "Harry, what kind of attitude is this? I'm just trying to persuade you. Can you afford the cars here?" Sydney said impatiently. "I don't need you to waste my time. Go away." Harry frowned. "I don't want to waste my time here with you. You're just a scavenger. What right do you have to be so arrogant?" After Sydney finished speaking, she saw an extraordinary-looking middle-aged man walk in from the door. One look, and she could tell that he was a rich man. She immediately went up to him flatteringly. "Sir, are you here to buy a car?" The middle-aged man responded through his nose. His attitude was very arrogant. "Please come this way. Let me introduce you." Sydney had a flattering smile on her face as she led the middle-aged man to look at a car. When she passed by Harry, she treated him like air and did not even look at him. Harry would not let her introduce him. Anyway, there were still sales in the 4S store, so it was the same for anyone. However, salesmen in the store heard Sydney's words just now. They all felt that Harry was just playing around. No one believed that he was buying a car. The cars sold by VTR were luxury off-road cars. They were worth tens of millions. Even ordinary rich people could not afford to buy them, let alone someone like Harry. There was no trace of wealth from head to toe. "Hello, can you show me the catalog?" Harry walked around and saw that all the salesmen looked at him with disdain. No one was willing to entertain him. He could only find a little girl sitting in the corner. Regina was not even 20 years old and had graduated from high school. If it weren't for her sweet looks, she wouldn't have applied for the sales here. She had just come here to work a few days ago and was still in the learning stage. At this moment, she was holding a stack of documents with a frown on her face and writing down the perimeters of all kinds of cars. She was shocked when she heard Harry speaking beside her ear. "Hello, are you looking for me to show you a few of our cars?" Regina said in surprise. "Yes, you can show me. But I just got to work and I don't know much about it. You can look for other sales." Regina was not confident and said softly. Harry smiled. "I don't need anyone else. I'm looking at you." "All right." Regina saw that the guest insisted on introducing her. Although she was flustered in her heart, she could not refuse. She could only nervously bring Harry to the car exhibition area and stammer to introduce them. Seeing this scene, the other salesman shook his head. Regina just doesn't have experience. Like a fool, she doesn't even look at this person. Does he look like a rich person? What's the benefit of introducing a poor person to a luxury car? It's tiring and pointless, and it's all in vain. New people have to have a growth process, so letting her practice with this poor person can be a good thing. I think she's stupid. The few of them watched Regina walking around with Harry and the car models. They were very disdainful in their hearts. For a poor person like Harry, he could not afford a luxury car, so he could only watch and enjoy himself. It was the first time Regina came into contact with guests. Her heart was in a panic and her voice was trembling. She had completely forgotten about the car perimeters that she had not memorized. She pointed at a car in the exhibition area and her mind went blank. Sorry, I forgot the perimeters of this car. Regina was about to cry. She felt that it was really too embarrassing. The salesman who was observing the situation was laughing so hard that he was bending over and over. The mocking look in their eyes became even more intense. Regina heard her colleague's mocking laugh and felt wronged in her heart. Tears immediately appeared in her eyes. Harry did not care at all. He smiled and said, "It's fine. You don't have to care about those people. You can look at the information and relay it to me." Regina felt grateful in her heart. She felt that Harry was really friendly. She had never seen such a friendly customer. "Thank you." Cindy, who was also introducing the model of the car to the customer, saw this scene and secretly snorted. "Sir, what do you think of this car?" "Then let's look at this one again." Cindy introduced several cars to a middle-aged man in a row, but the man did not say anything. So she walked over to Harry's side. She saw him sitting in the driver's seat and touching around. She was very unhappy and said, "My client wants to see this car. Get out of the way. Don't block him from looking at the car." Harry frowned. Before he could say anything, Regina spoke first. "Mr. Parker, let me show you the model of the car over here." As a new employee, Regina did not dare to provoke Cindy. However, Harry said, "I really like this car. Tell me more details about this car." Cindy suddenly sneered. "You really have good taste. This car is the most expensive model, and it costs $28 million. If you break it, you won't be able to afford it." When the middle-aged man saw that Harry refused to leave, he also said unhappily, "Why is everyone in your shop allowed to enter? If he dirties the car, do you expect me to spend my money elsewhere?" Episode 34. The Whole Model. The middle-aged man was well-dressed. His clothes were expensive, and the watch he was wearing was also a luxury brand. His words were full of confidence. It seemed like he was a rich boss, which was in line with the standards of the VTR's customers. However, Harry was different. No matter how he dressed, he did not fit in with this place. He did not look like a rich man at all. Sydney saw that her client was not satisfied and immediately shouted at Harry, "You can't afford the car here. Why are you still sitting in the car? If you disturb my client from looking at the car again, I will call security to chase you away." Harry ignored her. He said to the middle-aged man, "You want to buy this car?" The middle-aged man said proudly, "Of course, get down quickly. Don't dirty the car." Harry spat on the car. "The car is dirty now. You can buy another car," Harry said lightly. The middle-aged man did not expect Harry to spit in the car. He was furious. The car Harry was in was a limited edition car from the VTR this year. There was only one car in the entire city. The middle-aged man was originally prepared to buy it, but now that Harry had spat on the car, he immediately felt disgusted. "Why are you so uncultured?" Harry said, "If you find it disgusting, then don't buy it." "Is this how your store treats its customers? I want to file a complaint against you." When the middle-aged man saw how shameless Harry was, he vented his anger on Cindy. "Sorry, this person is crazy. I will ask the security to chase him out immediately." Cindy hurriedly apologized to the middle-aged man. "Harry, are you an idiot? How dare you spit on our car? This is a car worth more than $20 million. Cindy pointed at Harry and scolded. Regina was also dumbfounded. Harry had dirtied the car that was worth more than $20 million. What should she do? Would the manager think that it was her fault and fire her? When the manager of the store heard the commotion, he quickly ran out of the office. "What's wrong?" Cindy told the manager what happened just now. The manager was stunned. "Sir, please get out of the car. Let's talk about the compensation." "Manager, he was careless. I can clean the car," Regina said carefully. "Regina, who asked you to receive customers? You privately received customers and even let him dirty the car. You are fired." The manager shouted and was about to fire Regina. Regina's face turned pale. She did not expect the manager to fire her. She cried and wanted to leave. Sydney sneered. "Why should I pay?" Harry pulled Regina and said to the manager, "You spit on the car. In order not to affect our sales, we need to change to a new car. This leather cushion is worth $200,000. You must compensate now, or I will call the police to deal with it," the manager shouted. "Just changing the foot pad is not enough. I will still feel disgusted if I buy it. You have to clean the car," the middle-aged man also said. "The foot pad is worth $200,000. It is worth $30,000 to completely clean the car. That is a total of $230,000. Do you want to pay by card or cash?" the manager said fiercely. "Manager, he used to be a scavenger. He couldn't pay $20, let alone $230,000. He wouldn't even be able to take out $30,000, Cindy said coldly. The manager was shocked. Regina actually let a scavenger sit in the car. The middle-aged man frowned. "He is actually a scavenger. Then how many viruses and bacteria does he have on him? This is too dirty. I won't buy it." The manager was anxious. "Sir, I can give you a discount. Think about it again. I will give you a discount of $1 million. The middle-aged man hesitated. He really liked this car, and it was a limited edition one, so he didn't want to give it up. Harry spat on the car again. Everyone was shocked and angry. The middle-aged man pointed at Harry and couldn't say anything. "You are crazy!" The manager felt that Harry had gone crazy. He was about to go crazy as well. "I beg you to get out of the car. I won't let you pay for this car, okay? I beg you, don't mess around here. Go play at the store next door." The manager was frightened by Harry's actions. He knew that Harry was a scavenger. He couldn't afford to pay the car. Even if the police came, he wouldn't be able to afford it. What should he do now? The manager wanted to persuade Harry first. If he continued to mess around, he would not be able to sell the car. "Do you still want to buy this car?" Harry looked at the middle-aged man with a sly smile. The middle-aged man angrily turned around and left. "Sir, don't leave. I will give you a discount of $2 million. You can buy this car. A discount of $3 million, okay?" The manager looked at the middle-aged man's back with a disappointed expression. "You were sent by the neighboring store to mess with me, right? I'll give you $10,000. You can leave our store, okay?" The manager looked at Harry with a sad face. Harry looked at him and smiled. "I wasn't sent by the shop next door to cause trouble. I really came to buy a car. Don't joke around." "I'm not teasing you. I will buy this car," Harry said. The manager was a little confused. He did not know what Harry was going to do. "According to the discount you gave that person just now, $25 million in full, swipe my card." Harry took out his bank card and handed it over. The manager took it over skeptically. When he swiped the card, it was approved and $25 million was paid to the dealership. Everyone was shocked. Cindy was 100 times more shocked than everyone else. Didn't Harry pick up trash in the past? Why did he become so rich? He actually bought a car worth $25 million. Could it be that Harry wasn't a scavenger? Is he a trust fund baby? "Harry, I misunderstood you just now. I didn't treat you well either. Please forgive me, all right?" Cindy walked in front of Harry with a stutter. "Go and wipe the phlegm in the car clean, and I will forgive you," Harry said lightly. Cindy was stunned. She paused for a moment and nodded. "Okay, I will go and clean it now." Harry was speechless. He did not expect her to actually do it. Of course, Harry knew that people like Cindy were snobbish. They were arrogant in front of the poor, but in front of the rich, They were as petty as a dog. After a while, Cindy ran back and looked at Harry with an ingratiating expression. "I have cleaned it up. I guarantee that there are no traces of dirt." Harry nodded and threw $100 to her. "This is your tip. Thank you for your hard work." Episode 35. A Luxury Car. Cindy was embarrassed by Harry's tip of $100. "I don't want this," Harry said. "Then what do you want?" Cindy now wanted Harry to forgive her from the bottom of her heart because Harry's action of buying a car scared her. He bought a $25 million luxury car, which meant that he had hundreds of millions of dollars. "Harry, let's find a place to have fun tonight. I will apologize to you." Cindy approached coquettishly and held Harry's arm. Her breasts were pressed against Harry's arm. The reason why Cindy suddenly changed her attitude towards Harry was because she saw that Harry was rich. Anyone who was rich could toy with her as they pleased. She did not care about anything. Harry sneered and pushed her away. "Sorry, I'm not interested in you." Cindy still shamelessly pestered him. "Don't be like this. It was my fault just now. We were classmates after all. In the past, I had a crush on you." "You had a crush on me?" "Don't lie to me. Get lost," Harry shouted. Cindy immediately felt wronged, but she no longer dared to throw a temper at Harry. "Cindy, you really don't know shame. He already told you to get the hell out of here. Hurry up and get out of the way." A few female sales representatives walked over. "Handsome, add me on Instagram." "Hey, handsome, this is my number. Remember to ask me out." A few female sales representatives squeezed in front of Harry, scrambling to give Harry their contact details. Cindy had long been pushed to a corner by them. These few female salesmen now looked at Harry with strong desire in their eyes. Harry was young, almost the same age as them, but he was still so rich. If anyone could be his girlfriend, she wouldn't have to work so hard anymore. And now when they looked at Harry, they suddenly felt that he was a handsome man. They blamed themselves for not looking carefully just now and almost missed this wealthy heir. "Get out of the way." The manager ran over and pulled away the female salesmen surrounding Harry. "Mr. Parker, I have finished the formalities for you. Please keep these for your own documents." The manager handed the information to Harry. Harry took the documents and saw Regina crying beside him. He walked forward and pulled her to the manager of the store. "This car was sold to me by Regina. I'm very satisfied with her service, so you can't fire her." "Regina is a very outstanding sales representative. Of course I won't fire her." The manager quickly nodded. "Regina, from today onwards, you will be the sales manager. Her salary will be doubled," the manager said to Regina. Regina wiped away her tears and did not react for a moment. "What about me?" Cindy was shocked and said, "You are fired." The manager was very heartless because Cindy offended Harry just now. Harry bought a luxury car worth tens of millions, and the store provided the best service. The manager of the store personally handled all the procedures for Harry. Harry pushed away a group of female salesmen, drove a brand new luxury off-road car, and returned to the campus. When he drove the car to the dormitory building, the campus was empty, and there were not many people walking around outside. Harry locked the car and ran back to the dormitory. All three of his roommates were there. When they saw Harry, they greeted him and went to rest. The next day, Harry was woken up by a loud noise. Harry, quickly, get up and look. Barry used all his strength to push Harry awake. Don't push me, I'm dizzy. Harry rubbed his eyes and sat up. Look downstairs. Someone parked a car downstairs last night. This is a brand new, limited edition, super off-road vehicle. Barry ran back to the balcony and stretched his neck to look down. Felton and Jacob were also lying on the balcony and watching. Jacob's face was full of envy. This car is worth $28 million. There is only one in Maryland. Who bought it? Harry also walked to the balcony and looked down. At this time, the front of the dormitory building was already surrounded by people. No matter if it was boys or girls, they were all touching and taking pictures of Harry's car. This was all because the appearance of this car was too impactful. It was like a giant beast quietly waiting for its owner. Barry had an envious look. Other cars are like country bumpkins compared to this car. It would be great if I could sit in this car. Jacob shook his head. Stop dreaming. We don't know anyone who could afford this car. We will be satisfied if we could take a look at it. Felton said with a bit of hatred towards the rich. The owner of this car is too good at showing off. I really want to throw a brick down and smash the car. This is my car. Harry quickly stopped them. This was the new car he just bought. If it was broken, Harry's heart would ache. The three roommates turned to look at Harry, their faces filled with shock. Barry said, "You haven't woken up, have you?" Although they knew that Harry might really be wealthy now, this car was worth nearly $30 million. It was not something that ordinary rich people could buy just because they wanted to. Jacob smiled. "Harry, are you still dreaming?" Felton asked. Harry helplessly took out the car keys. The car's lights flashed and the engine suddenly started. The three roommates were dumbstruck, and their eyes were filled with endless shock as they looked at Harry. Harry saw that the few of them could not even close their mouths, so he shrugged his shoulders and said, "It really is my car." "I didn't expect you to be so rich." Barry and Felton hugged Harry's thighs. Jacob took out his mobile phone and called his girlfriend. He said some nonsense that he did not know what it meant. Harry's recent performance made his three roommates vaguely feel that he might really be a wealthy heir. But they would never have thought that he would buy a super luxury car worth nearly $30 million overnight. This was too scary. "Harry, can I sit in this car?" Barry had a look of anticipation. Episode 36. A person with a good relationship. Felton and Jacob looked at Harry as if they wanted to give it a try. Harry smiled and nodded. "We'll drive out to eat breakfast later." They cheered excitedly. Jacob was the one who was the most shocked. He had little contact with Harry. Therefore, he didn't know how many unexpected things Harry had done in the past few days. He was obviously a scavenger, but he suddenly became very rich. "Harry, who are you? Are you really the rumored heir?" Jacob asked. Harry and the others were obviously good friends, but he had kept his identity a secret for such a long time. Harry had an apologetic look on his face. He said, "I didn't mean to lie to everyone. I had my own reasons in the past, but now that my identity has been exposed, don't act differently towards me." Barry said happily, "I didn't expect you to be a super rich heir. No wonder you're not afraid of Benedict and Matthew. Harry, with you protecting me, I could do whatever I want in Maryland University in the future." Harry said with a smile, "You could do whatever you want." "Then treat us to breakfast today." Barry and Harry had the best relationship, and they were also the most excited. So he held Harry's shoulder and walked out. Felton and Jacob looked at each other and smiled. Then they followed. The four of them walked out to the dormitory with arms around each other's shoulders. At this time, Harry's new car was surrounded so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak in. They actually could not squeeze in. "I want to go in," Barry shouted. "If you want to take pictures, you need to line up. Do you understand?" A male student said unhappily. He thought Barry wanted to squeeze in and take pictures. Barry suddenly became excited. Harry was his backer now. What else did he have to be afraid of? "Why are all of you surrounding my car?" Barry said rudely. When the crowd saw Barry's arrogant look, they thought he was the owner of the car. They did not dare to offend him, so they made way for him. But those who knew Barry immediately mocked him. "Barry, I didn't know you can act so pretentiously." Those who were scared at the beginning were furious. They felt very embarrassed and rolled up their sleeves, waiting to beat him up. If it was in the past, Barry would definitely be afraid of such a scene. But now, he was not afraid at all. He said arrogantly, "This car is my friend's car." Harry smiled helplessly. Barry's behavior was a bit too exaggerated. He squeezed into the crowd and opened the door. When the onlookers saw the door open, they all knew that he was the owner of the car, but they didn't think that the owner was Harry. They were all dumbfounded. Since when could a scavenger drive a luxury car worth tens of millions? Everyone suddenly felt as if their world had collapsed. Barry said proudly, "In the future, all of you should behave." The surrounding people did not dare to refute. Harry covered his face. "Barry, don't go overboard." Barry had been suppressed too hard in the past, so once he obtained power, he became very arrogant. The 4 people in the dormitory got into the car one after another. Except for Harry, the other 3 were all touching the outer shell of the car with curious expressions. The interior space of Harry's car was wide. It wouldn't be a problem even if there were more than a dozen people sitting in it. The interior design of the car was very advanced. The car was like a high-tech spaceship. When they were about to leave the school, Jacob saw that his girlfriend's dormitory 4 people seemed to be heading out of the school. He quickly said, "Harry, my girlfriend is in front of us. They might also want to go out to eat breakfast. We can ask them." Harry nodded. He also saw Jen and happened to have something to talk to her about. The 4 people in Jen's dormitory indeed wanted to eat breakfast outside the school. When they were about to walk to the school gate, a large, scary off-road vehicle drove over from behind. "There's a car following us from behind." Sasha inadvertently turned her head and said, "It must be those people who want to hit on us. They can't even afford a sports car." Helena turned around and looked at them with disdain. Colleen also looked at them and said in surprise, "This car seems to have been introduced to me by my boyfriend. He said it was worth $30 million. Sasha and Helena were immediately shocked. Her attitude immediately changed. Sasha remembered that the heir she hooked up with last time only drove a sports car worth $8 million. Now that she thought about it, Sasha felt disgusted. A sports car worth $8 million was nothing compared to this $30 million car in front of her. A person who could drive a $30 million luxury car was definitely a super heir, so she needed to show off. If that person took a fancy to her, she was willing to have sex with him. Sasha saw Helena also winking at the car and suddenly felt the pressure of competition was too great. She said unhappily, "Helena, this car is coming for me. You can't snatch my man." Helena also did not want to be outdone. "This car is obviously following me. You went out without dressing up today. How could he possibly like you? Didn't you also not put on makeup? This car should be following me." The two of them opposed each other with equal harshness. Heirs were very common, but this kind of super heir was really rare. How could the two of them give such a good opportunity to each other? Pauline and Jen were surprised by their self-righteous behavior. Fortunately, they had seen a lot of them over the years and were used to it. Sasha and Helena stared at each other for a moment and found that they were evenly matched. They said at the same time, "Why don't we compete fairly? We will form an alliance." The two of them immediately reached an agreement. At this moment, the VTR sped up slightly and drove to the side of the four girls. Barry, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, stuck out his big head and whistled at the four of them. "Hey ladies, get in the car." Sasha and Helena were so scared that they almost peed their pants. "Barry?" Episode 37. 5-Star Breakfast. Imagination is good. Reality is cruel. Sasha and Helena originally thought that the person sitting in the $30 million luxury car should be an elegant sir. He must be very handsome to be worthy of this car. But when they looked at Barry's large, dark face, this huge contrast almost made the two of them vomit. Jacob, who was sitting in the back, also lowered the window and said, "Wife, are you ready to go out for breakfast?" Colleen was also stunned. "Jacob?" Jen also saw Harry in the driver's seat. She was also surprised. "Harry?" Harry smiled and said, "We're going out to eat. You guys want to come with us?" The four girls sat in the car. They thought they were dreaming. They knew the situation of the four people in Harry's dorm. Even the richest Jacob couldn't afford a luxury car worth $30 million. Barry and Felton didn't have much money either. Harry was a scavenger, so he had even less money. However, the driver was Harry. Jen had been helped by Harry, and she had personally seen him drive her back to school in a Bentley worth tens of millions. Although Harry said that he borrowed the car from his friend, but now it seemed like it was not. Furthermore, Harry had quarreled with Matthew several times, and he was not afraid of Matthew at all. He looked very confident. All of these had made Jen think that Harry was rich. Today, she was not really shocked. But the other three girls were different. After they sat in the car, they also analyzed it in their hearts. The result they came up with was unbelievable. Could this car be Harry's? "Whose car is this?" Colleen asked. "Harry's car," Barry said proudly. "What?" the girls exclaimed. Jacob felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. He felt that he was inferior to Harry. However, this was a super luxury car worth $30 million. His family had not bought him a car yet, so he was not qualified to compete with Harry. Sasha was puzzled and asked, "Harry, did you win the lottery?" She felt that since Harry could drive such a luxury car, he must have suddenly become rich. Barry said disdainfully, "That bit of money is nothing. Harry has tens of billions of dollars." Barry only found out about this on the road just now. He was now showing off. Sasha and Helena were stunned. They looked at Harry carefully. They used to think Harry was a little handsome, but now they felt that Harry was very handsome. His back was very handsome. He looked so charming when he focused on driving. Colleen looked at the two of them and laughed in her heart. "What do you want to eat? I will treat you today," Harry asked after driving out of the school. "How's the soybean milk and fried dough sticks at the intersection?" Felton asked. Sasha and Helena rolled their eyes at the same time and complained in their hearts. He was really useless. "The food in that place is indeed not bad," Harry nodded in agreement. "Yeah, soybean milk and fried dough sticks are the most nutritious. We won't get fat even if we eat them," Sasha and Helena immediately agreed. This was reality. If Harry said that a pile of shit on the roadside was fragrant, the two of them would also agree. Barry was unhappy. "Don't joke around. Today we must have a 5-star breakfast." Harry smiled. He did not care about Barry's teasing at all. The two of them had been through thick and thin together. Now that he had money, he had to let his friends enjoy life. "All right then, let's go to Star Moon Hotel." Harry took out his phone and called Mr. Rupert. "Sir, what orders do you have?" "I'll bring my classmates to eat breakfast now and arrange the best food for me." "Yes, sir." After hanging up the phone, Barry asked, "Harry, you said that you're the big boss of Star Moon Hotel. Could it be true?" "Yes," Harry nodded. The Star Moon Hotel was bought by Harry with his own money. It did not belong to the family. "The best 5-star hotel in Maryland is actually yours?" Jacob exclaimed. Sasha and Helena looked at Harry. They were very excited. Both of them have been to Star Moon Hotel once or twice. Whether it was the luxurious decorations inside or the expensive grand meal, both had left a deep impression on them. Also, the spacious and soft bed was unforgettable to the two of them. They drove all the way to the Star Moon Hotel. Mr. Rupert had already stood at the door and waited for Harry respectfully. "Sir, you have everything ready?" "Someone, park this gentleman's car in the exclusive parking lot." Mr. Rupert ordered the receptionist at the door to park Harry's car in the best dedicated parking space. Harry nodded and led his classmates into the hotel. In the lobby, there was a brand new red carpet. On both sides of the red carpet were hundreds of elegant and beautiful waitresses. When they saw Harry, they bowed in unison. "Welcome, sir." In the Star Moon Hotel, only Mr. Rupert could call Harry sir. All the employees below it unanimously called him chairman. This scene shocked the group of students behind Harry. When the girls saw Harry, they immediately felt that the imposing manner of a king could only reach this extent. Harry said, "Why did you guys make the scene so grand?" Mr. Rupert said respectfully, "I feel that this ceremony is not grand at all. You came to the hotel to inspect. We can't welcome you casually." Harry smiled helplessly. Mr. Rupert saw that Harry did not blame him and heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He had become Harry's servant not long ago, so he had to be careful and serve him. Once he made Harry unhappy, the rules of Parker family were not something to joke about. Mr. Rupert's attitude towards Harry scared Jacob. Mr. Rupert was a famous figure in Maryland. If he sneezed, the entire Maryland would tremble. However, in front of Harry, he acted like he was trying to please Harry. How scary would Harry's identity be? "Sir, I have arranged the best room for you. Dozens of our best chefs in the kitchen are also on standby. They are only here to serve your classmates today." A breakfast was specially served by dozens of chefs in a 5-star hotel. The students behind Harry did not even dare to think about this kind of treatment. They felt that this kind of thing was too exciting. But even more exciting things had yet to happen. Episode 38, Private Plane. When Mr. Rupert personally pushed open the best room in Star Moon Hotel, everyone immediately felt that they had entered the Garden of Eden. The entire floor was filled with a sky garden. There were birds chirping in the bamboo forest. Occasionally, there would be jumping squirrels between the branches and leaves. Cute white rabbits ran on the grass. There were boats swimming on the surface of the lake. On the island, there were pavilions and jade tables. It was really a jade table. The entire table was carved out of a piece of jade. The room was surrounded by transparent glass walls. Standing inside and looking outside, one could see the city. It was as if they were in a paradise on earth. Everyone was shocked. They only cried out after a long time. "The conditions here are simple. Please don't mind," Mr. Rupert said very apologetically. Everyone was shocked. "Let's go to the boat," Harry looked around and said. Everyone agreed with Harry's opinion. They were so shocked that their legs went soft. They did not dare to speak anymore. The cruise ship slowly drove, and they looked around at the entire city from the river. This kind of experience made everyone very excited. "What do you want to eat? Order whatever you want to eat. Don't restrain yourself." Harry saw that none of them spoke, so he opened his mouth to speak. Mr. Rupert waved his hand, and the service staff placed a delicate menu made of precious purple bamboo beside each of them. "Barry, you can order first," Harry said with a smile. Barry swallowed his saliva and nodded. "I'll order a North Sea snowfish." Mr. Rupert immediately ordered the staff. "Inform the North Sea harvesting ships immediately to prepare the freshest snowfish. The hotel private plane will take off to pick it up immediately." "Yes." Barry was so scared that his whole body trembled. The menu in his hand fell on the table. Private plane? Everyone was also shocked. They were just having breakfast, but the hotel actually sent a private plane to receive the freshest ingredients. This was too crazy. Harry calmly drank his tea. He did not say a word and felt helpless in his heart. Actually, he did not want to be so high profile in front of his classmates. However, since Mr. Rupert had already made arrangements, he had no other choice. Sasha and Helena had already gone crazy. This was too exciting. This was a scene that could only be seen in movies. "Harry, I want to order this Southern Border Crimson Swallow Soup. What do you think?" Sasha said in a sweet voice. "Harry, I want to order this Western Region Sand Fruit. Do you like it?" Helena also said in the same tone. The two of them kept blinking at Harry, making him have goosebumps all over his body. He felt extremely uncomfortable. These two women had been flirting with him, so of course he knew why. They had only seen his status as a rich man. Harry said calmly, "All right, I'll arrange it right away. Send 2 more private planes," Mr. Rupert ordered. Barry and the others trembled again. Could it be that they ordered a dish and the hotel would send a private jet? This was too extravagant. The next few dishes they ordered were not so exaggerated anymore. However, as long as it was a dish that needed fresh ingredients, the hotel would send a special car to the nearest place of production to deliver it at the fastest speed. Everyone was enjoying the performance of the girl in ancient clothing, quietly waiting for breakfast. They didn't feel bored at all. Harry looked at the beauty dressed in ancient clothing, who was playing the zither, and asked Jen, "Jen, you are the president of the Ancient Clothes Club in Maryland University. Your work in the international clothing competition this time is also ancient clothes, right?" Jen was stunned for a moment. She remembered that she had indeed told Harry that she was going to participate in the clothing competition. She had even invited him to cheer for her. Jen nodded and said, "Yes, I prepared a set of ancient clothes, waiting to participate in the competition." Harry smiled and said, "I have seen your live broadcast. You look very good wearing the ancient clothes, just like a fairy descending to the mortal world." Jen lowered her head in embarrassment and said softly, "What you said is too exaggerated." Sasha and Helena saw that Harry took the initiative to talk to Jen and were very jealous in their hearts. They said unhappily, "Harry, what's so good about the ancient clothes? Why don't we take some time to go to the seaside to play? I'll wear a bikini for you to see." Barry and Felton widened their eyes. They actually wanted to wear bikinis for Harry to see. Harry said calmly, "No need, I don't have time to go to the beach." He looked at Jen again and said, "I think the clothes you designed have the potential to win the championship. What do you think?" "I was thinking of participating in the competition. As for getting the award, I have never thought about it." Harry smiled and said, "That may not be the case. If I say you can win the competition, then the championship is yours. No one can take it away." Jen raised her head and said excitedly, "Really?" "It must be true. But isn't it too monotonous for you to only take one set of ancient clothes to participate in the competition?" Jen hurriedly said, "In the past, I designed a lot of clothes. I just don't feel confident. Why don't I bring you to take a look later and you can help me advise?" Harry smiled and said, "Okay." Felton poked Barry and whispered, "Jen is about to fall in love with Harry. We can't compare with him." Barry shook his head and sighed. He had long seen that Jen had some interest in Harry. Now that Harry took the initiative to look for her, she would definitely be tempted. Sasha and Helena suddenly had some hatred for Jen in their hearts. It was not easy for them to meet Harry, this super rich heir. "Harry, Jen's ancient clothes design are already outdated. It is impossible for her to win the championship. This is an international competition. The contestants are all world-famous designers. Jen is a university student. What qualifications does she have to compete with others?" Sasha said. "That's right. There's nothing good about her ancient clothes. Harry, do you like uniforms?" Episode 39. They met again. A super luxurious breakfast kept them eating till noon. After the various top ingredients were prepared by the chefs of the 5-star hotel, they were very delicious. After everyone was full, they realized that they did not go to class in the morning. However, to be able to eat such good food and enjoy such luxurious scenery, it was just a one-time absence. It did not matter. Harry asked, "Does everyone plan to return to school or play for a while?" Barry said, "Since we're skipping classes, why don't we play more outside?" Harry looked at the girls and saw that they also nodded with anticipation. So he let Mr. Rupert arrange it. Star Moon Hotel was a 5-star hotel, and it not only provided food and accommodation. There were also all kinds of entertainment, massage, fitness, and other services. The girls went to a spa while Harry brought his roommates to stroll around the various entertainment districts of the hotel. Whenever they encountered something fun, they would try it out. "You guys play first. I'm going to the toilet," Harry said. He had a little too much tea in the morning. Harry was in a rush to pee, so he ran to the toilet in a hurry. He pushed the door open and bumped into a person who came out of the bathroom. "Are you blind?" The person started to scold him. His attitude was very bad. Harry turned his head and looked. It was a middle-aged man with a pair of black eye bags hanging on his face. It was obvious that he had been drinking all year round. Did you go to the toilet to eat shit? Your mouth stinks, Harry immediately retorted. Fuck. The man was instantly angered. He threw a punch at Harry's face. Unfortunately, he had been drinking. How could his strength compare with Harry's? Harry tilted his head and let the man punch the air. Then Harry bent his upper body and placed his knee on the man's stomach. The man bent over like a shrimp and kept retching. Looks like you're not full yet. You don't have any strength at all. You should go in and eat some shit, Harry said coldly. You! The man covered his stomach and pointed at Harry, but he could not utter a complete sentence. Godfather! What's wrong? Why did you hit my godfather? A person who ran out of the female restroom shouted when she saw this scene. Bella? Harry turned his head and saw that it was his ex-girlfriend, Bella. He immediately felt happy in his heart. What a coincidence. They actually ran into each other again. Ever since the birthday dinner that Benedict held for her, she had been humiliated by Harry in front of everyone. Bella had also been dumped by Benedict. Since then, Harry had never seen her in school. Harry did not expect to meet her again in the Star Moon Hotel today. Harry? Bella trembled. That day, Harry had left a memory that she would never forget for the rest of her life. Her ex-boyfriend who picked up trash had actually become the master of Star Moon Hotel. Bella was very regretful at the time. Until now, she was still thinking about how good it would have been if she had not betrayed Harry. Go and call my bodyguards over. I want to kill this brat, the man shouted loudly. Godfather, Bella hesitated and did not dare to move. What are you still standing there for? I bought you so many things, and you can't even do this kind of thing? I might as well raise a dog, the man said anxiously. Bella, your taste is getting worse and worse. You won't let go of this kind of man. I'm curious. Can he satisfy you? Harry looked at Bella with disdain. He thought to himself, this woman is really too terrible. She could do anything for money. Harry, don't mock me. Now you think you're amazing just because you have some money? My godfather is not an ordinary person. Don't think about leaving this place safely today. Bella was ridiculed by Harry and stomped her feet angrily. Boss! Actually, the man's bodyguards were not far from the bathroom. When they heard the noise, they quickly ran over. Kill him! Kid, do you know who I am? I'm the CEO of Coral Group. You have provoked me. You're dead meat. Harry raised his eyebrows. He was the CEO of Coral Group? This was really great. Then do you know who I am? Those who offend me will not end up well. Harry chuckled with a cold expression. Harry, my godfather is someone you can't afford to offend. Now quickly apologize to him. Seeing that we have known each other for a while, I could still persuade my godfather to spare you. Bella relied on someone to support her and appeared very bold. In her heart, the CEO of Coral Group was a big shot. No matter how great Harry was, he could not beat her godfather. Hey, President? Aren't you the dog of the Bannon family? You're just a servant. Why are you so arrogant in front of me? It just so happens that I haven't settled the score with Matthew yet. Today, I will deal with you and collect some interest from you, Harry said. He was called a dog by Harry. The man immediately became furious. It wasn't because Harry said something wrong. He was indeed a dog of the Bannon family. However, when Harry said that, the man felt ashamed. He doesn't know what death is. Kill him, the man shouted at the bodyguards. He thought Harry would be scared to the point of kneeling down and begging for mercy, but Harry just said lightly, Someone, come. A wave of neat footsteps came from afar. Over 100 security guards of the hotel surrounded the man and his bodyguards so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak out. What are you doing? I'm a customer of your hotel. Why are you surrounding me? The man looked at the security guard staring at him with malicious intent and said in shock. Star Moon Hotel was Harry's territory. If something happened to him here, it would become a joke. Bella looked at the hundreds of strong security guards surrounding her. She was so scared that her face turned pale. She did not expect that Harry was actually not afraid of the Coral Group CEO. Coral Group was a huge power with $30 billion worth of assets. Did Harry not know the truth, or was he courting death? Break that man's leg. As for that woman, Harry had not finished his words. Bella knelt down. Harry, I'm sorry, don't hit me. I shouldn't have provoked you again. Let me go, please. Bella knelt in front of Harry and begged him. You dare to let someone break my legs? Do you know that I am the CEO of Coral Group? Who are you? The man was shocked and angry. The hotel security guards did not care what he shouted. Since Harry had already given the order, they immediately attacked. Ah! Ah! The man and his bodyguard cried out in pain. You don't deserve to know who I am. You just need to know that I am someone you can't afford to offend. Also, tell Matthew to enjoy the last few days of his life. He won't have a chance in the future, Harry said. Bella saw her godfather's legs being broken by Harry. Her whole body trembled, and she immediately peed. Harry kicked Bella to the side with a look of disgust and said, As for you, you better not let me see you again. Get lost. Episode 40. Kill your whole family. The hotel security guard broke the man's legs, and the pain knocked him out, and then he woke up from the pain. What Harry did not expect was that this man still could not see the situation clearly. His legs were broken, and he was still cursing at Harry. I'll remember you. Just you wait. If you don't kill me today, I will kill your whole family another day. Harry was so angry that he laughed. He dared to say that the people who destroyed the Parker family were either not born yet, or they were all dead. Feed him some more shit, Harry said. I don't eat shit. Don't drag me down. You can't afford to offend me. Aren't you afraid of the Bannon family's revenge? The man shouted, but no matter how much he threatened, it was useless. He was still dragged into the toilet by the hotel security personnel. Harry definitely wouldn't watch what happened next. You must let him eat his fill, Harry instructed before turning around and leaving. If he didn't leave now, he would feel disgusted. Harry found his 3 roommates. Barry asked curiously, Why did you take so long to go to the toilet? I saw a lot of security guards walking towards that direction just now. Did something happen? Jacob and Felton also looked at Harry in confusion. They were not worried that something would happen to Harry. This was his territory. It's nothing. It's just that someone is eating shit. Everyone went to watch. Harry waved his hand and said, Could it be that the shit of a 5-star hotel is fragrant? Barry said in shock. Yeah, do you want to try it? Harry asked. Jacob and Felton immediately threw up. Harry avoided the 3 of them and took out his phone to call Mr. Rupert. Mr. Rupert, don't let that person in the toilet leave. Use some means to make him a spy in the Coral Group. If he doesn't want to, then kill him. Although Harry had obtained some information about Coral Group from Eye of Dark Night, this information was not detailed enough. He needed to make use of this man. The few of them played until the afternoon. After meeting up with the 4 girls, Harry brought them back to school. The luxury car drove into the campus again, inevitably causing another wave of commotion. The luxury car drove on the campus's tree-lined road, and all the cars passing by avoided it. The heir who was driving the sports car hid even further away. They couldn't afford to buy this car, and they couldn't afford to offend it either. Harry, I don't have any classes in the afternoon. If you have time, come and see the clothes I designed. After getting off the car, Jen took the initiative to invite him. Sure, Harry said. Sasha and Helena were so jealous that they rolled their eyes. However, Harry did not care about them at all. They secretly scolded Jen in their hearts and then returned to the dormitory. Barry and Felton also tactfully left. They winked at Harry and ran away. At this time, in a bar, Matthew and Benedict were drinking. Matt, Harry didn't die last time. I heard he broke your men's legs. Benedict looked concerned, but he was secretly happy. This was exactly what he wanted. Matthew and Harry were fighting to the death. He watched from the side. Let him be proud for a few days first. Recently, my family has been busy with the fashion competition. I don't have the energy to deal with him, Matthew said hatefully. How are your preparations going? I heard that you're determined to win the championship. Of course, my family has been preparing for this for so long. I will definitely win the championship. Benedict said maliciously. But I think I heard that Harry is going to help Jen win the championship. He doesn't know what's good for him. As Matthew spoke, his phone suddenly rang. Hello? After listening to the voice on the phone for a moment, Matthew's eyes widened. The CEO's legs were broken? He even had a stomach full of shit and urine? Who did it? Harry! After hanging up, Matthew threw his phone away. Harry! Benedict was confused. Matt, what happened? If it wasn't for the fact that I can't get away now, I would have pulled his intestines out. Benedict heard Matthew's words and knew that Harry had crippled another subordinate of Matthew. He rolled his eyes and thought of an idea and said, Matt, you first. Jen was the president of Maryland University and had an independent activity room. Harry followed her here. However, the activity room was very quiet at the moment. Obviously, it was not the time for the club to hold an event. Look, these are the clothes I designed earlier. They are designed according to the female clothing from the Four Seasons. It's not a complete replica, but it has softened the aesthetics elements of modern people and made some improvements, Jen introduced. To be honest, Harry did not know anything about clothing design or popular elements. He could not comment on or guide Jen in designing the ancient clothes, but the few clothes that were displayed in front of him made Harry's eyes light up. He thought about it and could only say, It's too beautiful. Jen was also happy when she received Harry's praise. But she was a little disappointed and said, Even so, I have no confidence in this matter. Harry was puzzled. Why? This year's clothing competition is an international competition. The design I'm displaying is ancient clothes. One has to know that the ancient clothes are still considered a minority culture in America. It has yet to be popularized, not to mention the entire world. The number of honored guests in this competition is the majority of the people overseas. So, I'm already very satisfied just thinking about being able to participate in this competition. As for winning the championship, I really don't even dare to think about it. Harry looked at Jen and knew that she was feeling a little inferior. After all, there were definitely many experts in the international fashion design competition. How could a university student like her win the award? He smiled and said, You can rest assured about this. As long as you want to win the championship, then the championship will definitely be yours. Jen frowned and said, Harry, are you going to do something? At that moment, Harry's phone rang. Harry gestured for Jen to wait for a moment, then picked up the phone. Matthew's glooming voice came from the phone. Harry, you are quite capable. 2 of my subordinates have been crippled by you. I have underestimated you.